Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
God's had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
God's had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
What is up, everybody? This is Silverspook, and this is the Silverspook live stream. Oops. Anyways, yeah. Hope everybody is doing as well as can be managed under current circumstances. Hope you are as safe as possible from COVID-19. Let me make my head a little bit smaller here. But anyways, yes, everything that we do here is supported by the ongoing sales of Neofeud, the cyberpunk adventure game about my experiences as a native Hawaiian activist, defender of our sacred mountain, Mauna Kea, also social worker and STEM teacher for the underserved and at-risk youth of Hawaii. Speaking of, I think I'll kind of open with that. Hawaii, Mr. Biden has apparently declared this month of May as Asian American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. They added in the NH, so it's AANHPI apparently. President Biden declares May as Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Heritage Month. Technically, Native Hawaiians were Pacific Islanders, so I mean, it's not. I mean, while that's very nice, that's not necessarily. I don't think that's all that necessary. Also, like lumping Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders all together as if we're all just one morass of brown and yellowness. It's kind of like it's kind of two separate things. But anyways, President Biden has declared May as Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I just briefly did want to comment on this. As a Pacific Islander myself, and I'm also Asian. My grandma's some of my grandma's family were relatives were actually interned in concentration camps in the United States. Speaking of human rights violations, it's part of the topic of this stream. So I'm actually I identify as a native Hawaiian and a Hawaiian national, a member of the illegally occupied sovereign nation of Hawaii by the United States Empire, which is by their own admittance illegal, as I often bring up. And as a Pacific Islander and Asian, I don't need your liberal platitudes and corporations plastering hula dancers on products to seem woke for a month and sell more of their products. You've been doing that for decades upon decades, making trillions of dollars with Hawaiian Airlines, the Hyatt, all your little hula dancers, Disney Aulani, all your Disney movies, Moana, Hawaii Five-0. So you've been doing that for a while. And by you, I mean the United States, your corporations, your empire, and other foreign capitalists. The U.S. police murder and mass incarcerate Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders constantly. Your wealthy Americans and other foreign capitalists, millionaires and billionaires, make us homeless by buying up, and we're going to get into Mark Zuckerberg, don't worry about that, who has recently expanded his disgusting 700 acre holdings of our islands to 1,300 acres. He just recently bought another 600 acres, displacing even more Native Hawaiians in the middle of a time in which it's we have the highest prices for Hawaiians, where more than half of us are already kicked out of our lands. But anyways, so your wealthy make us homeless, displace us from our lands, from our ancestral fishing, hunting, gathering grounds, from our indigenous ways, commodify our culture, and your military is bombing Mauna Kea. So what we need for the United States to do is to leave, withdraw your aircraft carriers, your marine bases, your army bases, your naval bases, your air force bases, Hickam, Wheeler, get all of your mole people out, your intelligence community, stop making war on China and the rest of Asia from the Indo-Pacific Command. That's what you can do. Under the admittance of Presidents Grover Cleveland and Bill Clinton in a formal written apology admitting the illegal occupation of Hawaii under the illegal annexation in the 1890s. You can take your troops, you can take your corporations, you can take the Hyatt, the Regent, Donald Trump's Ritz-Carlton, you can take Goldman Sachs' Turtle Bay Resort that pays starvation wages to his Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander. You care about Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders and Asians? They work in these resorts where they are sexually abused in Waikiki by their bosses, by rich, wealthy, white dudes disproportionately coming and staying and then raping people there. They're paid $7 or $3 an hour for illegal under-the-table labor. You can take your corporate tourism, your disproportionately Western capitalist owned corporate tourism and leave. Take your Ritz-Carlton and leave. Take your Hawaii Kiki and leave. Take your Hanama Bay fake plastic hula dancers. Take your bastardizations of our sacred dances. That's all Waikiki, the entire tourism industry. Take Disney Aulani. Disney, you can fuck the fuck off. Fly out on a military industrial complex produced Falcon wing set. Fly your fucking Aulani out of here. That's what you can do. You can take your corporations, your tourism industrial complex. That's what my entire Neofeud game is about, ultimately. Take all your billionaires. Take your Mark Zuckerberg and your 1,300 acres. Take Larry Ellison and his entire island of ours, Lanai, that he bought for $330 million, where he also has his own slave classes of Asian American, Pacific Islanders, and under the table imported, horribly mistreated illegal migrants. Larry Ellison, you can fuck off of Lanai. Give Lanai back to the Native Hawaiian peoples. That under your illegal Larry Ellison, stop illegally occupying Lanai. That's what you can do. Pierre Obenyar, the CEO of eBay, you can fuck the fuck off. Billionaire. All the other billionaires and Oprah Winfrey, give back your thousands of acres of Maui that you had to own an entire highway, and when the Western manufacture, because the West consumes the vast majority of the carbon under the climate change caused by disproportionately 70% of it through American headquartered corporations in Wall Street and the military industrial complex, the number one producer of greenhouse gases. The wildfires on Maui that incinerated one of our islands, and Oprah Winfrey had to actually open up her personal highway so that Hawaiians could escape and not burn to death. Oprah, you can fuck off. Back to your go be an Oreo for your billionaire Americans in America. You know, go sell a lot more of your people in America, right? Throwing money into the Democrats' coffers and contributing to their party, who mass incarcerate and mass murder 90% of the black Americans who live in blue area and districts and cities, medium and large. So you can fuck off Oprah. You can fuck off Larry Ellison. You can fuck off Elon Musk, who owns portions of our land. You can fuck off Bill Gates, trying to buy all of Maui, also owns huge quantities of land. Harrison Ford, fly your fucking... Take your 7 days and 7 nights terrible show. Take your ranch in Kauai. Take your plane. Fly your little plane. Try not to crash it into the Pacific Island. I don't care that you were fucking Rick Deckard. Fly your little fucking plane home and get the fuck off of Hawaii. That's what you can do. Harrison Ford. John Travolta, you can fuck off. Take your ranch that's about 100 miles north of where we're streaming from. You fuck the hell out of here, John Travolta. Who else? The entire Hawaii is the epitome of white supremacy, imperialism, and capitalism. The illegal occupation of it. It's a who's who. This is the game. The Game of Thrones of neo-feudalism is played with Hawaii sovereign lands, with the stealing of the chess pieces are the indigenous stealing of Hawaiian land. That's the who's game. When they go to Davos, when they have their conventions, when they have their RIMPAC international military, the biggest international military war games that are not just games, they are military war on China ultimately, and they're preparations for war. They come here, they rape Asian and American and Native Hawaiian and Pacific Island bodies, they exploit Asian American, Native Hawaiian and Pacific Island labor, and then they buy up more Native Hawaiian lands to continue their pillaging and their raping and their war and their capitalism. So all y'all's, your RIMPAC, Israel, America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, Japan, India, all your Western NATO allies and your Western Indo-Pacific Command allies, and all your little fucking Australia, your little sheriff against China trying to start World War III and get us all nuked by shooting missiles and dropping Hellfire missiles on top of Mauna Kea, Pohakalo Air Force Base, your P-52A Stratofortresses dropping 15,000 pounds of C4 while we're up there. You can take all of your military, you could take your plutocracy, you could take your billionaire, neo-feudal kings sitting on thrones of $100 stacked to the height of stadiums, and you can fuck the fuck off to, I don't know, you can go back to America, and then after you get to America, that's all illegitimate. Then you can fuck off into a black hole, because there's no legitimate place for all these settler colonial ass motherfuckers. So fuck off from Hawaii. When you get back to America, then fuck off of the indigenous people, the Sioux, the Algonquin, the Lakota, and everyone else's land who you're also illegally occupying. Maybe some of you can go to Britain, or some of you, if you can get the fuck along and stop, you can like participate in land back, which is not about exchanging control of land, but about ending control of land and abuse of land and abuse of bodies and abuse of indigenous and black and brown bodies disproportionately, and women's bodies and LGBTQ plus bodies. Then you can but you have to destroy white supremacy, and you have to undo your imperialism and your on your own ways. But if you can't, then you can go back to your little cold, wet shithole Britain and die with 160,000 murdered by austerity little British serfs there. Because Britain, you spawned America. You gave sick Cthulhu-like birth to America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, all these sick settler colonies. So I don't know, Britain. You got a lot of you're gonna need to do. You have to do the work also, Britain. But anyways, that's what you can do. I personally, and I can't speak for every Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander, but I think that they would say that we don't particularly need this fucking month. I don't think that we need Joe Biden, the empire, to gift us a nice little, we got a Black Heritage Month. Now we have an Asian American and Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. What the fuck are you gonna do other than like absolutely nothing? Fund another $100 million worth of police grenade launchers and fucking robot dogs, and then the police are the number one crusher and killer. The police were the one going, hey, that white man that just shot up some Asian massage parlor worker women, he just had a bad day. The U.S. police are the hate crimes against black people, against Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, who are shot 6 times more per capita in Hawaii. Hawaii has worse police than the illegal continental U.S. The U.S. illegal police in Hawaii are worse than the U.S. illegal police in America, because America's entire country is illegitimate. We were shot 6 times more per capita than white people. It's about 2 to 3 for black compared to white in Turtle Island illegal U.S. Biden funding the anti-Asian hate crimes bill is not going to do anything. It's just giving the U.S. police money increases the hate crimes. The U.S. police are the hate crime, and they are the murderers. They are the criminals. Literally, police commit more crime per capita than the average citizen in the United States. The U.S. police also, 2 out of 5 women in New York have literally been sexually assaulted or raped by the New York Police Department. They solve less than 1 felony per year. The U.S. police are a slave catching, slave murdering, and terrorization force for the continued slavery of disproportionately black and brown people. And the Biden's bill, anti-Asian hate crime bill, is a joke. It's not gonna do anything. And what you can do, you can like defund your goddamn police. That's what you can do. You can like abolish your goddamn police and your prison industrial complex and your carceral system that works with the colonial international slave system. I know that they're not going to do that willingly, but that's what you can do. That's what you can do. U.S. colonialism of Hawaii, Hawaiians, other Pacific Islanders, and Asians, and U.S. racism against us has always been intimately linked. Racism is the language of war and global extraction. This is a long thread that specifically about Asian. I created this earlier about anti-Asian and anti-Hawaiian racism earlier this year, and there's a bunch of important stuff. If nothing else, I think Holly may have a link to a panel called what is that one? God damn it, I can't remember what it was called. The one it was the big panel on anti-Asian racism. Yellow Peril Red Scare, that's what it is. Yeah, Yellow Peril Red Scare. I mean, so for our Asian friends and comrades, this one is a very important one. If you have not seen this one,
category of hate crime.
It's called Yellow Peril and Red Scare with Danny Haifong. It's got Charles Yu of Child Collective, Sheila Zhao, I'm not sure if I'm saying it right, Zhang Yu, also known as the Red Rapper, Amanda at Cat Content Only, and Carl Za. Specifically on the anti-Asian racism. If you want to learn about for your Asian American, Pacific Islander, and Native Hawaiian month, you can watch this one for the Asian perspective on a lot of those issues. Obviously, you're watching a Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander, and also an Asian technically right now, but there's lots of other there are many other resources. I can't think of them all off the top of my head, but what we don't need is a goddamn month. You know, what we need is land back. That's what we need. You know, what we need is decolonization. What we need is, we're not going to get this, obviously, just by asking the United States. They don't give up anything. And these white supremacist, capitalist, imperialists that make up the majority of the United States are not going to give it to us. We have to demand it. That's what we did on Mauna Kea. But you that's listening, you're probably not Joe Biden. I'm just gonna take a wild guess. I think he has other things he needs to be doing, like, I don't know, trying to figure out how to make up more lies about Xinjiang. So you know, where he's gonna get another 25 gallons of cocaine so that he can stay awake today. But you can know this, you know, and we have to work towards building a global anti-imperial, actually anti-racist, which is anti-imperial, because racism is the language of war and imperialism. And so you should know this. So in our fight to force the United States to leave Hawaii, to force the United States to stop murdering and mass incarcerating us, to stop the United States and a lot of its racists, police and non-police, from committing these escalating anti-Asian violence and murders. Right, 4,000 exponential growth in anti-Asian. That is inseparable from the new Cold War being waged and attempting to be waged by the United States and its allies on China, on all of Asia, and the world, the parts of the world that are trying to move away from imperialism, from colonialism, towards socialism, towards living in what I call indigeneity a lot of the time. Respecting and living in mutual respect with other people, person to person, culture to culture, language to language, not banning languages like the banning of the native Hawaiian language and countless other indigenous languages, which the United States has done and still does, arresting a native Hawaiian professor for speaking Hawaiian in a court of law in Hawaii, Kaleko Kaeo, committing actual genocide like a normal America. So that's what, you know, that's my reaction specific. I wanted to say that because it was just declared today as a fucking Asian American and Pacific Islander, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander month, apparently, or Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander History Month. I mean, we don't need to every time you do a racism or what, so next month when you got like some, you know, because Biden has deported more Haitians than in 100 less than 100 days than all of Donald Trump's entire term, right? So next, what is it? Is June gonna be Haitian History Month for all of your deportations and your abuse of Haiti? Is that what's gonna happen? Is it Haitian and Jamaican Islander Month? What, every time America commits another war crime every 5 seconds, is it gonna just like make a new month and name it out? You're gonna run out of months. There's only 12. You already got LGBTQ plus. You know, you got LGBTQ plus month. You know, you're gonna run out of months. You got so many hate crimes. America's committing so many genocides, actual genocides, human rights violations, imperial war, just war crimes. You're gonna run out of months. You're already out of months. You know, if you add up every genocide of every indigenous person and people and culture in North America, you're already out of months. So you're gonna need a new tactic than just fucking naming months after the people that you're harming, causing these thousands of violent attacks and murders, shooting them up in the massage parlor. You're gonna have to come up with a new tactic, United States. You know. But the liberals are the competent fascists. You know, they're competent imperialists. They're competent murderers. They know how to get away with this because this stuff does work on the majority of the United States. That's higher educated and some of the sellout the coastal and a good number of the people that identify as apolitical. That kind of bullshit works on them. The Republican, the right wing, the Trump voters, like about 40%. They want you to actually no. We actually just screw them Asian American, Pacific Islanders, and Native Hawaiians. Screw them black people. Screw them Chinese. Wuhan flew all the way. Right? So for them, that's the only difference between the Republicans and Democrats is whose vote. It's white people. It's white and just diehard racist, overtly racist people that you're getting to vote for the Republicans. And for the Democrats, it's just, I don't want to think of myself as a racist, but I'm actually a Karen. Higher educated liberals living disproportionately closer to the coast and in the major cities, and some people of color that live also disproportionately in the cities. So the Biden and the Democrats, they don't give two shits. Everything that I say, Hawaii has the highest level of mass of arrests of children of color in schools, higher than California, Minneapolis, Baltimore, Chicago, New York. Hawaii has the highest mass arrests of children and throwing them in prisons in the prison industrial complex. Hawaii has the highest rate of disproportionate police murder. There were like 3 in George Floyd trial was happening, and there were all these police murders, right? There's the one in Minneapolis, 13-year-old kid. There is one in Chicago, right? There is one in there are multiple children. There is the one in Columbus, right? Hawaii had like 3. Chicago only had 1 that was like, obviously there's other things happening, but that's like on camera, fucking police murder of a child. Hawaii had 3 murders. Chicago only had 1. Minneapolis only had 1. Columbus had 1. Hawaii not only did it have 3 murders in the span of like less than 2 weeks by its police forces of people of color and a child, Hawaii was the only one to refuse. Chicago released body cam footage and the police were put on leave. Columbus, they were investigated, right? Hawaii didn't even bother to release the police footage for the murder of a 16-year-old. Talk about your Asian American, Hawaiian, and Pacific Islanders. Hawaii refused to release they refused to release the body cam footage of the murder of a child on completely illegitimate grounds, and also didn't bother to. They just said, no, the police were valid. We don't need to see the body cam footage. We don't need to see anything. Hawaii is the worst. The illegal occupation U.S. state of Hawaii, not the Hawaiians, but the illegal U.S. occupation Hawaii police stormtroopers are the worst. Like, statistically, they're the most opaque. And America is a super opaque, not transparent, disgusting, lie-filled police slave-catching system. But Hawaii is the worst. So I'm gonna tell you, Hawaii is the bluest state. It's the most democratic state. This idea that this is a very white privileged ass idea that the Republicans are somehow like way just totally, and that their party is like just so much different. It's no, this state has the worst police. And it has never been, it's 25 times more money goes into the Democratic Party. The Republican Party is a joke. They don't even, like, when I went to look to what was on the voting list for Mazie Hirono, the senator, there was like nobody even running. They don't bother to run a Republican senator. It's just blue all the way. You couldn't even vote against the Democrat. So this is nonsensical. The Democrats are much more competent fascists. Actual fascists. They're much more, I've lived under their fucking fascism. I watched children be murdered. And you want to talk about disappearances of people into unmarked vans? This is a privilege of some white ass Western leftists pretending like, oh my God, it's so scary. Oh my God, yeah, it is scary. It is not beneficial when a clown is up there saying all kind of racist stuff. On the other hand, Trump actually accelerated the decline of the U.S. empire by 7 years. So, not by his own accord, but he's so incompetent at being an imperialist and a fascist, he fucked up big time. Now China and other countries are gonna supersede the United States. He broke alliances around the world, allegiances with his Five Eyes. He pissed off Europe. He caused the Iran sanctions to fail. Donald Trump, you made everybody freaked out about him, and so he's a terrible human being. His anti-science positions on COVID were abominable, definitely. But in terms of destroying the United States, which is illegitimate, as I've already said, he did an amazing job of that. He did a good job fucking it up. Biden is also fucking it up, but not as fast. That's why I don't like Biden. Because he's more like the Hawaii state government that murders Native Hawaiians like me 6 times more per capita. You ever been murdered? No, you haven't. That's why I hate when white people talk about what they think about the Democratic Party versus this and that. If we're gonna ride for Biden, you're gonna ride for fucking Biden. Fuck you. Come get fucking murdered by our police here. Actually be one of the 7,000 disappeared people in Chicago, black people, you know, and then let's talk about some fascism. No, Trump did an amazing job fucking up your disgusting empire. Did a great job, you know. He wanted to, you know, the thing is, he also wanted to pull out of Afghanistan, you know, and then it was actually a lot of Democrats that, and the Democrats that were supporting the military, Clinton, which had more support from the U.S. military, and the military industrial complex in particular, the corporations that sell the bombs, the tanks, the guns, the planes, and the assault rifles, and all the heat-seeking missiles, and all the information technology infrastructure. They actually don't like Trump because he actually wanted to pull out, not for good reasons, because he wanted to pull out because of his eco-fascist, racist, his white lower to middle class voter demographics, who understand that wars around the world are going to bring more black and brown people into the United States, because that's what happens. But it was actually the Democrats that want, no, actually what we need to do is like keep everybody in Afghanistan. You know what we need to do with Hillary Clinton and all the warmongers? What we need is a no-fly zone over Syria. What we need is more tensions, right? Biden has accelerated the wars. He's talking about pulling out of Afghanistan. They're not pulling out of Afghanistan. They have special forces. They have intelligence community operatives. They have all kind of other forces that are lingering in Afghanistan. They're running to people. They're trying to look like they're better while being worse. Again, that's very competent. Biden is very good at running, like all the Democratic governors, mayors, senators, and representatives in Hawaii. They're very good at murdering, actually getting the murder done. You know, whereas Donald Trump, like it's really embarrassing and gross to watch just a white guy come out and just, you know, murder someone on camera and go, yeah, that's real great. You know, it's embarrassing. You know, it's just embarrassing. But the Democrats cover up, they get it done, and they cover all the dead body. Like, you know, if you shoot someone in an alley and then you wave the gun around like, I just killed this person. Look at that. I just killed that person. That's not a very good way to commit a crime, right? Because people are going to come out. They're going to, oh, you kill. Oh, well, you know, now you're gonna be in deep shit. Why are you going around killing people like this, right? You know, if you're a competent murderer, you shoot the person in a dark alley, you bury the gun, right? Or you get rid of the weapon, right? You cover all the fingerprints, and then you get out of there. That's the Democratic Party, right? And then you come out and you say things like, "Oh, I really care about people. Oh, I'm just such a great guy." That's the Democrats, right? And then you can get away with thousands of murders that way, right? Like Hillary Clinton did, like Obama did, millions ultimately. You add up everybody who died in Iraq. You add up everybody dying in Chicago, disappeared into an offsite, forced to play Russian roulette at the age of 16 as a black kid in a Chicago black site by the actual fascist Chicago Police Department, headed by a black woman Democrat mayor, Miss Lightfoot. Now it's Miss Lightfoot. So it was another black mayor at the time. Or Baltimore. One of the most abusive, they literally had 4 cops committed violations, crimes, and like sent 10,000 people to either prison, got them in trouble, got them killed. Just 4 cops, 10,000 people. There's a story. I Got a Monster. It's Baltimore. Blue, never been anything but blue ass city. Democratic mayor, black Democratic mayor right now. That's how you cover up the crime of murdering thousands and mass incarcerating tens of thousands of black people. You know, when you want to do an actual fascism, you don't just shoot someone and wave the gun around. That Donald Trump is like, hey, I hate black people, and you shoot the gun. I hate Mexicans, and then you wave your gun around. That's how you fuck up. And then the international community is like, that's gross. This guy is really making our colonialism out on the surface. He's making all of us look all racist and shit, right? And they're like, Trump, this isn't fucking 1930 something. Like, you gotta stop, or 1918, or this isn't 1830. You gotta stop waving the murder weapon around, Donald Trump, right? And then, because there was a time when it works a little bit. You know, it can work a little bit depending on the conditions of the planet. But the conditions of the planet are not really conducive to that, particularly when you have the largest powers in the world that are actually functioning are not white. And so Donald Trump is over there waving his gun around. He's like, you're blowing up all of you're getting all of the mob in trouble. So that's why, you know, Trump was an incompetent fascist and an incompetent imperialist, and he did screw it up. And they couldn't get all the murder done. I mean, you gotta have your murderers in the areas where black and brown people live to get away with racist actual violence, you know? And that's why the Democrats are just the best murderers and the best mass incarcerators, the best slave catchers. And then they throw away the murder weapon. And then they put an LGBTQ plus flag on their fucking Tomahawk missile. And they put they put a kente cloth around the police chief, and then they kneel down and they have the cop that, murdered someone wash George Floyd's feet, and just like, oh, Chauvin is so sorry. And then you keep doing it. Anyways, that's not quite what I was supposed to be talking about, but I did want to kind of go off about that a little bit because it's very irritating to see. Wake up and see this Asian American Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander month from our fascist in chief, our imperialist in chief, our warmonger racist in chief, Mr. Biden. Anyways, let me look at the chat. We're having a good one. We're having a good enough day. The day is going well as enough. But anyways. Let's just lump all these people together to look good. Yes, exactly. But anyway, what's what you can do? What's what you can do is you can check out my friend Conquest of Dread is a indigenous video creator, content creator, and now streamer from Aotearoa. You can check out Umurangi Generation, which is a indigenous made cyberpunk game about imperialism and colonialism of Pacific Islanders. In Aotearoa, also known as New Zealand, by Veselikov on Twitter. That's what you can do to educate your. I mean, if you watch the Silver Spook streams, you probably are at least a little bit educated, somewhat educated, hopefully very educated. But if you've been watching any of these streams, you should at least have some education or have at least some resources on Pacific Islanders and Native Hawaiians. Otherwise, I'm not doing my job. But if you do need some, or you just showed up, then those are some ideas. Obviously, Hanani K. Trask from A Native Daughter. Neofeud is, if you actually you want to support indigenous Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islanders, Neofeud is a game that is about my experiences. As I went off on this entire thread last time, but I'll go over it again, just a little bit. If you do want to learn about Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders and our experiences, and you also want to support a Pacific Islander making anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-colonial video games, Neofeud is a game that is what I created over the course of about 3 years while working as a Native Hawaiian social worker with impoverished children, mostly Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, living in a Mazda tribute or near homeless, to make this game about growing up in buried slums of Hawaii as U.S. billionaires live up in mansions on the hills. So if you like, I mean, that's something you can do for Asian Hawaiian and Pacific, Asian American, AANH and PI month. I know I just went over this whole thing like last thread, but Neofeud is anti-capitalist, anti-racist, anti-imperialist cyberpunk. I'm Native Hawaiian who made this game. I already said that. The art, stories, and gameplay of Neofeud are a direct reflection of my upbringing and experiences as a Native Hawaiian STEM teacher for the underserved youth of Honolulu's inner city, teaching robotics, programming, and sustainability in an often difficult, stressful, and Kafkaesque endeavor, being in one of the richest, most... Actually, I'll just put up the trailer while I say this real fast. And then I'm going to get into what I was supposed to talk about. Being in one of the richest and most beautiful places, yet dealing with families with working parents living out of vans, sleeping on the street, trying to keep kids out of gangs, off of drugs, on a path towards better opportunities like the ones that I had. Growing up in a slum area of paradise while going to an upscale private school, only because my father taught there and we got free tuition, which is now $20,000 a year. Hawaii is known for postcard Corona commercial scenery, but it is not all fun and sun for everyone who actually lives in Hawaii. I grew up as a Native Hawaiian on the not so nice side of the coconut trees where tour buses avoid. My parents and my parents' parents have lived in poverty-stricken areas of Kalihi Palama, and there are other areas like Waianae, Palolo, on Oahu, cleaning for, teaching the kids of, or dancing the fake plastic hula for the profit of mostly white foreign millionaires and billionaires of Hawaii. So that's why I call it Neofeud, because I identify myself as a third generation neo-feudal serf under this pretense of democracy that calls it Western liberal democratic capitalism that never was a democracy and never was. It's just a continuation of feudalism with $sign characteristics. That's what I call capitalism ultimately. My friends in the neighborhood lived 22 a house, surviving on ramen and spam and food stamps, just dirt poor. On the weekends, we would run through the forest barefoot, playing games like Rock War, which involves whipping rocks at each other and trying not to get bloodied. They were wild kids, but we had good times building tree houses and cannonballing into a big pond at the back of our valley here. But on Monday, my siblings and I would pile into a cheap old Toyota Corolla, and my father would shuttle us all off to an elite college prep school. Again, he could only afford this because he taught there, and we got free tuition. Obama's school, President Obama's school, right nearby, is $30,000 a year. It's one of the most expensive schools in the country, in the illegal country of the United States. I was the one ghetto sprawler among rich, upper crust corpo children for a horrifying 12 years. Everyone didn't have holes in their shoes at this school. They came in Mercedes and limos. Dodgeball was illegal to avoid lawsuits. I was a overweight brown Hawaiian kid from the ghetto amongst a lot of wealthy, fairer-skinned whites and Asians, and as you might imagine, I was singled out along class and race lines, got made fun of for having old shoes, looking different. I was basically the N-word basically in the class. Dad's rusty beater versus their Mercedes. I was talking about The Craft the other day, and there's that scene where the girl, she actually goes to an upscale private Catholic school as well. The school I went to was also a Catholic school. And there's a black girl that goes to that school, and she she gets like hated on by this like white blonde Barbie looking girl, and she asks like, why are you so mean to me? Why are you so mean to me? And then the white blonde girl in the upscale private Catholic school in Los Angeles says, well, to be honest, I just hate N-words. She just comes out and says it. That's like that experience of that character in The Craft, the kind of supernatural show about the witches in the 90s. But her experience of like, I just hate N-words and I don't like you. That's basically how it was for me. In this, it was a upscale private Catholic school in a illegal American rich city. Los Angeles and Honolulu are very similar, eerily similar. A lot of the Hollywood, they go back and forth. They're always coming through Hawaii. Honolulu is like they built LA in an island. It's a disgusting city. Anyways, in LA and Honolulu, LA's weather's a little bit worse. It's disgusting. In Gitsoni and cyberpunk terms, it was like waking up in the sprawl, going to the school in the Villa Straylight, returning home to the sewers every night. I never learned a single word of Hawaiian in the private school, just a few coloring books about ancient Hawaiians who are gone now. The message I got from school, TV, and movies was basically, I'm an American, but not quite. Wrong color, maybe 3/5 of an American. Anyways, I'm not going to read the whole thread, but that's what Neofeud ultimately is about, is my personal experiences that are not personal. Again, it's important that we kind of stretch our minds. That's one thing that science fiction is good for doing. And link up the personal, the local, the interpersonal, the social, and the economic to the local to the global struggles. To fight, because to really win this fight against the racism against Asian American and Pacific Islanders, it has to be linked to the global struggle of the colonization of Asia, the ongoing colonization of Asia, which is linked to the ongoing colonization of Africa, the ongoing colonization of the entire Pacific. The illegal occupation of Hawaii's military and the racism against Native Hawaiians that I experienced is not separate, compartmentalized aspects of reality. That's part of the Western structure, is to break off business and pleasure and go like, oh no, when you come to Waikiki, that's all just having fun, and then break off politics from economics. These are inseparable. Break off social struggle from politics, from economics. No, these are all linked. And that compartmentalization of reality, that kind of breaking it off into discrete chunks that can each be controlled and managed and pigeonholed into little months, like, oh, this is Black History Month, and now it's Asian American and Pacific Islander Month, and now we're gonna go do politics, and now we're gonna go to brunch, and then we're gonna finish brunch, and then we're gonna go do some arms dealing, and that's business. And when we do arms dealing and blowing up the world and sanctioning Venezuela and then and backing apartheid mass slaughter of children in Palestine, the business is separate from what we do in my little hashtag and my kente cloth kneeling with fucking Cornel West. That's all separate. No. The anti-Asian violence and crimes, anti-Asian violence and murders. We try not to say hate crimes because that hate crime suggests that the solution is police to solve crimes, which police don't solve crimes, but that's a whole nother can of worms. It's anti-Asian violence and anti-Asian murder and anti-Asian racism cannot be stopped as long as the liberal and neoliberal strategy continues to succeed, and it remains compartmentalized. Because then they can always just turn anything into a month. They can just recuperate, rebrand Black Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter, Pacific Islander Lives Matter, Hawaiian Lives Matter. They can just recuperate, put a Hawaiian Lives Matter on the HPD, and then they go murder another Pacific Islander, like you remember Cycap. It was actually from I believe it was Marshallese. I can't remember, but where is it? Holly? No, I forget. It's somebody from what is called Micronesia, but I believe Marshallese, but I could be wrong. But it's a Pacific Islander, and they could just put, "Oh, we remember. Oh, we care." This is the Democratic strategy. It works. The Democratic strategy of this compartmentalization, right? We can donate 30 cents from our Starbucks coffee of the $10,000 we made this month. Fucking doing Goldman Sachs high frequency trading, algorithm programming, and working for the WTO to literally plunder Africa. But oh my God, that starving African child that you made working for Goldman Sachs or the WTO, and then I can take 30 cents of my fucking coffee, give it to Howard Schultz, a Democrat liberal billionaire, to build one school in fucking Africa. This is the strategy. That's competent colonialism. That's competent racism. That's competent fascism. Fascism is when white people have other white people harm them the way that white people harm the black and brown people. That's the only difference. Colonialism is fascism, but not done to other white people. They freak out and they go, "Oh my God, Germans are doing it to other Western Europeans. Oh my goodness." But when Germans do it to Muslims, which they do, they're disproportionately represented in German prisons. French are literally just like banning Muslim culture, just criminalizing their entire people. Oh, that's not fascism. That's not fascism. That's totally fine. Oh yeah, no, mass incarcerate them Muslims. Ban their black people. That's not anything like it. No, you can police murder, police disappear Muslims and dark people all over Europe. You call them dark people. They just call them the dark peoples. Europe is a fascist place. It's just they're not doing it against the white people right now, so it doesn't count. It's a colonial structure, and we can't. We will never deal this. The West. I think that's why I'm just like fuck the entire West, America, all of its allies, Europe, all these settler colonies, and big chunks of places like Japan and India that are working closely where a lot of these seeds of colonialism and other reactionary ways and capitalistic ways are heavily seated and are thriving, unfortunately, not fully, right? But like, that's why a lot of it is like the undoing of the entire illegitimate United States is really key. But back to the kind of point, which is we can't separate out the racism, the social struggles, and the economic struggles under a racialized capital. Slavery and capitalism are fundamentally intertwined. The slave trade was the birth of to a large extent, the birth of capitalism. These are not like, oh, we have race over here and then we have capitalism and economics over there. No. These things are fundamentally interlinked. And then the war is somewhere way down in another area code. No, the war is like right in there with the capitalism. America built its fortunes, its richest families, from the Roosevelts, the Poor's, the Standard & Poor's, J.P. Morgan. The biggest, richest families in the United States were built on colonialism and racism and slavery of the Chinese, actually. That's just, and that whole fact is just totally glossed over. Not until 2021 has even the majority of Americans even got past, well, Asians are model minorities and they're all doing great. They're not all doing great. 2021. You know, most of America can barely recognize that anything bad happened to black people, let alone the slavery and ongoing racism and slavery of the prison system. But right, left, and center have not even gotten close to recognizing actually, you could even argue more of America's blood money comes from Asian oppression. And left, right, and center white Western America have not even recognized that. Most of them still don't recognize it. Now we have what? We have Hillary Clinton doing a fucking panel with 4 Asian women, and we're supposed to think that that's like reparations for that. No, absolutely not. You know, never mind the Hawaiians. I'm the, you know, the Hanane K. Trash was basically like fucking like just actually canceled, just like shoved out into the nothing. I don't know. It's unclear what exactly happened to her, but she was basically like never heard from again after about 2003 or 4 or so. Hawaiians have been saying this thing. How many people, before you watch the Silver Spook stream, how many of you, like, and how many people that you know in your community, your neighborhood, if you're in America, if you're in the UK, how many of you knew what was happening in Hawaii before you listened to a Silver Spook stream? I will wager virtually every single one. Because every time I do a stream, I have like endless numbers of people going, I had no idea. Of course, everybody had no fucking idea. But now everybody, after this month of Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander History Month, I'm sure everybody will pretend like, oh no, we, the Western left and liberals, the right wing will be like, fuck them, the Hawaiians and the Pacific Islanders and the Asians. But the left and liberals of the West, I'm sure, are going to be coming out going, oh, we knew all along and we have always stood in solidarity. Fuck you all if you're going to say that shit. You are happy to come to Hawaii, displace us, abuse us in the tourism industry. Somebody said like, I think it was Adam Kiawe said like, you know, he, was it Bali or somewhere was like deporting people who are disrespecting the people and not wearing masks and violating their laws. And Adam Kiawe says we should just deport everybody who disrespects and is racist against and disrespects Native Hawaiians. And I said, well, you have to deport most tourists and the entire tourism industry, because the entire tourism industry is a goddamn cultural appropriative genocide that is based on banning our actual culture and then making a Disneyland fake fucking Vegas version of our culture of sexy hula dances that are not even real with fake plastic cellophane lace. They're made with actual indigenous plants that are being made extinct, like tea, etc., etc. Plastic cellophane lace, fake coconut shell bras. This is all shit. It's all fake. Everything that you see when you come to Hawaii tourism, particularly anywhere on Oahu, almost all the tourism industry, it's all fake. It's not real Hawaiian culture. It's all as culture appropriative as Farah's Overwatch Indian culture. It's like a fake Indian guy doing a hey you know. So it's all brown face. And left, right, and center have been happy to come to Hawaii for decades upon decades. From Hawaii 5-0, Elvis's Blue Hawaii, nobody gave 2 fucking fucks. You know? Even when I'm talking about this stuff, even when other people might have thought, you know, well, I know that the West, the United States, and the tourism industry that owns Hawaii, and along with the military, do their best to silence us. But even if every day you're gonna have white people in our tweets, in our threads, in our discussions, going on Facebook, going, oh, you just be happy that we brought you roads and electricity. Never mind, we are the most technologically advanced country with electricity before the White House in our capital in Hawaii, with a higher literacy rate than every other country, including the United States and every country in Europe, with a higher, more developed economy, rail, trains, subaquatic blueprints for subaquatic submarines. Before Jules Verne had even published 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Every fucking day. Because, you know why? Because the West doesn't give to their material conditions, and I understand, their material conditions are not conducive to them actually giving a shit. They give enough shit to give 30 cents of their coffee to a black person. They give enough of a shit to give $1 to one Hawaiian who asked them for some money living homeless on the street. But they're not going to give enough shit to not fucking come and take all of their corporations and get the fuck out of here. And take their military aircraft carriers and get the fuck... No, because they're too busy making money I had a great time in Hawaii. Well, and I'm gonna go back to LA and be a fucking arms dealer for Lockheed Martin. You know what you can do? Fucking stop being a fucking Lockheed Martin arm dealer so you can afford your fucking vacation. That's what you can do. I don't need your tooth. I don't need your fucking 25 cents. I don't need your fucking dollar. To the Hawaiian rattling a cup because they got displaced because their house is $950,000 fucking dollars, and they make $725 dancing their fake hula in their fake fire dance, teaching fucking rich Karens how to surf. While the trophy wife is off shopping at Sackler's Fifth Avenue, and fucking Neiman Marcus. You know what you can do? You can take your Neiman Marcus and get the fuck out of here. Oh, but we're not going to do that because I'm too busy being a fake caring liberal, enjoying my Hawaii vacation. Anyways. But that's what we can do for Native Hawaiian and Pacific. So again, Neofeud, this game that you're watching, is about my experiences as a social worker, STEM teacher. It's about the intersection of social, political, economic inequality. As somebody brought up, like, what about cyberpunk and disability? Somebody actually, somebody brought up, let me see. Somebody asked about disability in cyberpunk. This is just a quick aside, and then I'm gonna jump in. I know I'm like not even close to the main topic, but I will get into that. And it does all play back together. Somebody had asked about disability theory and fiction. Are there any sources on disability theory and cyberpunk? I'm especially looking for anti-ableist approaches, which is obviously a challenge for representation in games. And I did want to point on top on and also ableism and eugenics, which is part of where a lot of that comes from, and social Darwinism and those, and academia. So again, university, academia, the struggles of disabled people are also cannot be compartmentalized and unlinked from these colonial, capitalist, and racist struggles against racism. And Neofeud also, that is a part of Neofeud as well. Neofeud's protagonist is a disabled cyborg social worker whose cyberarm is constantly glitching, nearly causes his car crashes. He loses his job. It does threaten his life because if he gets into a car crash, he has to get to work. Otherwise, he can't live without his job either, because he lives under a even more Western American plutocratic capitalist style of system, a overtly neo-feudal system, where it's literal techno king Elon Musk. Well, actually, no, it is literal techno king Elon Musk. Elon Musk has crowned himself the techno king of Tesla. And he actually, again, I know I bring that up, but he literally filed with the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, with the federal U.S. regulatory agencies and the government, to change his title to not just Chief Executive Officer, but Techno King. So, but the fact that Elon Musk could move the U.S. government into, and he has the title now, the fact that a billionaire could actually move the United States government into something so ridiculous as allowing a multi-billionaire, one of the richest people on the face of Earth, to declare himself king, that alone is an illustration of what neo-feudalism is about, and how I keep being vindicated by cyberpunk dystopian reality making my games come true. I wish they would stop. Now, I would say cyberpunk dystopian reality becomes true in the West, not so much in some other 1.4 billion person countries where they are currently Jack Ma disappeared, and the billionaires there are freaking the fuck out, and the financial press, including Western diplomats, Western executives, are freaking out about, are they going to go to prison or possibly be beheaded or possibly have their entire billions confiscated, which they are freaking out right now. There's serious crackdowns right now. But in the United States, you can be declared techno king by just ordering the United States government to give you a fucking crown. That's an important difference. Mr. Jeffrey Bezos is over there fighting with Bill Gates over $10 billion worth of military industrial contracts, slapping this is all a game to them. The tech companies literally run the biggest tech companies that are synergistically like a cancer woven into the government and the military, which are woven into each other of the United States, the military industrial complex and the tech industrial complex, the prison industrial complex, and Wall Street and DC. They're all basically one structure. They're the only branch of government. And the billionaires run that show. The richest, the highest at the highest peaks of capital run that entire show. They just say, "I want a kingship," and they give it to me. And so Neofeud is literally coming true. And the protagonist, right, is a disabled cyborg social worker whose cyber arm glitches, threatens his life, almost gets him fired. Which would also threaten his life, because if you don't have money, you can't have housing, healthcare, and then you just die sitting on your cancer, like wives of doctors who are professional radiologists who could cure their wife's cancer, but can't. But the wife's like, "Well, we can't afford $100,000 and we'll lose our house, so I'm just gonna let my cancer from my colon grow tentacles throughout my body, break off into neocytes, and give me tumors in my brain, in my pancreas, and in my bones, and then I'll just die." So you will die in America without money. So, and that's an important point of Neofeud as well, and Neofeud 2 especially, where your existence rent, right? But Neofeud 1 as well. If you don't have money, you're dead. Or you wish you're dead. Or you live homeless, despised, because if you become poor and if you lose your social standing, which is your money and your capital, that's why you have to fake it till you make it. You have to fake it to even be considered a human being in America. If you don't pretend to be rich, you're poor. And if you're poor, you are morally depraved, you're morally terrible, you are economically a failure, you're emasculated in a toxic masculine culture that requires men to be patriarchal, successful winners that can bench 300 pounds and eat beef, turmeric, and salt exclusively and have explosive diarrhea, which is ridiculous, but that's American culture. And all of those aspects, the patriarchy, which we're going to get to very shortly, and the toxic masculinity within that, are inseparable in the struggle against all of these systems. And Carl Carbon and his other robotic characters, they lack access to basic healthcare and mechanical care, reparation of their arms. The silicas, who have altered their sentient machine robots that have altered their sink to spout Valvoline oil rather than water, because guess what? They're hydrophobic robots that rust when they touch water, so they don't need that. They need oil. But that's grounds for, again, but that fact is grounds for their stealing of their children based on a faulty social work in America is basically child theft and indigenous genocide system. Social work. So it's what a lot of it is. And I can say that being a social worker, watching that happen. Social work, if it did what it was, like if police actually arrested criminals, I mean, maybe that would help, right? If social work in America didn't steal indigenous and black and brown children and then put them with abusive white families where they are raped, physically and mentally abused, and then used by pharmaceutical companies as fucking antidepressant lab rats and to test out ADHD and bipolar disorder chemical, which is what they are used for. There's children. It's disgusting. Social work is everything in America will be weaponized. It's the idea that we can just it's the police are obviously abysmal, but this idea that we can just remove police and replace them with social workers without, no, the entire country and all the people that are police officers and all the people that are social workers too. It's very fucking fucked up. While I was doing re-education, which is what I was doing, what the Chinese call poverty alleviation, and it is what social work is supposed to be. Helping people to integrate and move on to a better life when they are hurting themselves in their communities, right? That's what I did as a social worker, trying to help kids that are homeless children, migrants, asylum seekers, children living in the ghettos, kids getting into gang behavior, into drugs and gangs, etc. Trying to help them hey, let's not destroy our own community by selling meth and then shooting each other. Let's stop doing that. It's not gonna help anybody, and stop listening to freaking what Ice Cube and fucking Kanye say about whipping the Desert Ease out, and then stop trying to be a gang, just trying to move people away from those behaviors, right? But America doesn't, America. This is why it's not like that we have to deal with the police now. No, that you cannot just deal with the police. Even you're going, well, the problem is the cops. If we just got rid of all the cops, we'll be all good. No. if the U.S. even if you abolish all the police, which I mean wouldn't be a bad thing necessarily in the United States, but even if you abolish all the police and you replace them with 1 million you just have community social workers with rainbow flags on their arm that happen to carry guns and waltz around and re-educate people with bullets to their fucking heads, because the people, the other systems in place, the capitalism, the military-industrial complex, the wars, the racism, that stuff is still there. The same people are still there, and they will just, that's what a lot of social work is. It's just sometimes it's more efficient genocide than police because it's not as high profile. You can just, you don't even have to bother shooting the Native Hawaiian when they don't even become Hawaiian because you've stolen them from their indigenous parents. It's a much more efficient way to destroy. You can just like kill the Indian, save the man strategy. It's actually a more insidious, less directly violent, maybe. I mean, no, that's not really fair. Ask Law Sue about that. It's less bullets, maybe, total, but I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to start throwing social worker. They give fucking kindergarten security guards grenade launchers in California. This idea that the park rangers are some of the most horrible enforcers. They go, oh well, we'll have like park police. Those are the ones that hurt a lot of indigenous people. It's not just like, well, we'll just get rid of this and this. No. The United States is an illegitimate, racist to the core, fascist to the core, colonial, imperial, plutocratic structure to the fucking core. It's people, and not just the ruling class is abysmal. The neoliberal and neo-fascists and neocons are all terrible, but the people. 76 to 80%, 40% voted for Trump, and 80% voted for Biden or Trump. And they not just voted, but they're like, nah, he's doing a good job. That's all supporting racism, fascism, plutocracy, and capitalism. The people are broken. Not just the Republicans, the Democrats. 30%, the majority of 30% of viewers of Fox News are Democrat, and Fox News is not like CNN and MSNBC are all good either. The majority of America is racist to the fucking bones. They have to deconstruct. That's why we have to destroy and deconstruct all, not just white supremacy, because you can compartmentalize that and you go, well, you see, when people wear a swastika, march down the street and Sig Heil, and then come out and say N-words, that's racism. And then everything else, that's fine. No, that's putting a hula dancer on your Tomahawk missile. That's putting a George Floyd sticker on your fucking social worker gun that happens to be wielded in such a way to mass incarcerate or steal black and brown children from their parents. No. The entire fucking system and people wearing LGBTQ plus flags can still be fucking transphobic and anti-LGBTQ. Nancy Pelosi's Biden put on a goddamn racial healing sticker. That doesn't make him racially fucking healed. The entire country and the entire West, its countries and its people, are white supremacist, overtly, covertly or subconsciously to the fucking core. And that all has to be deconstructed, and that's not gonna happen if everybody's gonna go let's all hang out in some Nazi streams and fucking hang out with alt-right racists. No, that just enables the less overt white supremacy, the less overt wealth worship, capitalism, and it's not even necessarily just capitalism. I mean, National Socialism was, Mussolini gave the first pension plan. Things got better for white male Germans under Hitler, The SOCDEM Europe is very good for white Germans. They have free college. It's great. They have their very good healthcare system. $35 an hour. Germans can make $35. White Germans can make $35 an hour in their pencil factories. They have They have Nazi Party, the National Socialist Party of Germany. It still exists. They do it more competently, and they hide the fact that they're taking 97% of Bolivia's lithium and starving them. They hide the fact that Germany actually is horrible to its Muslims and is paying Hungary to cage hundreds of thousands of black and Muslim people, bigger concentration camps than America, on the borders of Europe. And internally, France, you know, oh, we're so socialist. No, you're terrible against so many people. Europe is the Nazis. Mask on. They won. The Nazis actually won in Europe. Anyways, and they definitely won in America. It's called the Democratic Party. Anyways, that all has to be interrogated, and we can't interrogate all of that as long as people think that we're racially healed because I went to a fucking white fragility conference. We're all fixed because, oh look, there's a black celebrity. Oh, we're all fixed because a native Hawaiian girl was on the side of my plane, and I donated 50 cents to this Hawaiian cause one time, and then I went back and fucking worked for the police that murder us. No. The entire United States, its government, its people, its culture, its movies. As I talked about Captain Falcon, Captain fucking America, Falcon, and Winter Soldier. Europe in its entirety, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, their people, their government, their culture, their films, their books, their radio plays, their everything is fucking broken. Is that hard to hear? And that means like, oh my God, that means a lot of things that I think and a lot of things that I love and a lot of things that I, think of, even my own nostalgia for movies, games, TV shows, that's all broken. Yeah. And it sucks, you know what? Because I know that's in me as well. I'm not saying this like you're over there and I'm all good over here. No, like I know I will always be half stormtrooper because I went to a private school that's the Emperor Palpatine training facility. It's called $20,000 a year private fucking school, and I had my language genocided out of me because it was illegal to speak Hawaiian and it was illegal to practice my culture. It's still illegal to practice our culture. When we practice it on Mauna Kea, we get our fucking mountain bombed by your militaries, by joint rim pack collaborations that irradiate our mountains. When we try to practice our actual culture, when we try to practice our actual socialist aloha aina kuleana pono culture in Hawaii, we get crushed. We get our businesses license revoked. We have the U.S. government, the U.S. military, and the U.S. capitalists trying to drive us out. Because you know why? Because if Hawaiians ran Hawaii the way that we ran Hawaii when we ran Hawaii before the illegal occupation of the United States and before colonialism, there would be no billionaire. There would be no billions going to Donald Trump from the Ritz-Carlton. There would be no Waikiki. There would be. We might have tourism, but it would be Hawaiian led. It would be on our terms. You would respect Hawaiians when you come into Hawaii. In the same way that the 150 million tourists that come to Xinjiang actually respect them, and the revenue from the people in the place that America continues to accuse of genocide, their revenue actually goes back to the Uyghur peoples, to the peoples of that place. Their lives have gotten better. Hawaiian lives have gotten worse and worse and worse. We are dying faster than any other demographic. We are homeless at a rate faster than any other demographic. We are on diabetes. Our health is in the sewer. The Uyghurs their population is growing. Their people are getting wealthier. They have access to more and more and more healthcare. They can speak they never had their language banned. The government pays for them to learn in their own language. They have their mosques, they have their cultural practices, pushed up, and they have and supported. Their tourism benefits them. If Hawaiians, there might still be tourism in Hawaii, but there wouldn't be rich white Californians coming in, abusing our beaches, having their fucking mai tais with their servant industry Hawaiians with our fake sad smiles, with our aloha welcome, thank you, here's a lei. And then I'm going to go home and cry into my ramen, dying at the age of 39 from diabetes, working with all these abusive white racists. It wouldn't, when you come to Hawaii, it would be more like when you go to Xinjiang. And you can see the actual culture, which is not, and also this is an important thing that was pointed out by Daniel Dumbro. It kind of made me cry a little bit. It was like, he said like, it's not even in a Uyghur region. It was actually in a Kazakh region of Xinjiang. Where the Chinese government have actually supported the people there, the indigenous people there, and it was like, and he said, and this is the area where they were living in extreme poverty. They had like, their roads were washing away. People didn't have toilets. People didn't have water. People were starving. There were famines. People's homes were washing away when they would freak out and pray. They live in this mountainous region where there's huge very treacherous area where there's a lot of ice that melts in the warmer months, and as the ice melts, you have these huge like mudslides and mountain slides that destroy homes, they destroy roads, and the children, they couldn't go to school for half a year because the road would be destroyed. Like one girl was saying, like I had to, she was now she's 20 something, and when I was little, I rode a horse to school for a couple of months, and then I couldn't even go to school, so I couldn't go to school, any school, and like now we were given 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartments and houses, very nice apartments and houses, for free. Hawaiians we continue to be, we literally can't even live in our own land. We are kicked out. Right now we are fleeing our own land because it's $1 million to buy any house. It's like $3,000. This is why I was homeless as a Hawaiian in Hawaii, is because of America's abuse of us, making us more homeless. We're paying $2,000 for a studio, slightly larger than a studio, for next to the highway, surrounded by meth labs, not because of the poverty that America inflicts upon us people of color. We applied for affordable housing. It's a 20-year waiting list, if ever. Hawaiians are on the America. Well, we care about Hawaiians with Hawaiian Homestead Act. Hawaiians are still on the waiting list. 70 years, my own relatives have died of diabetes waiting on that motherfucking waiting list. Talk about America does poverty exacerbation to its ethnic minorities. This is why every time I see somebody fucking bad-mouthing China about Xinjiang, and I go and look at what's actually happening there to Uyghurs, Kazakh, the Hui people, these ethnic minorities, and I'm like, it's fucking disgusting as somebody whose people has been genocided by America's definition, by UK, Australia, and all your allies' definition. What you say the Chinese are doing to the Uyghur, you are doing to us. Historically and literally right motherfucking now. And where is the recognition of our fucking ongoing genocide in your own fucking country? Where we still cannot really speak our language, where we cannot practice our ways, where you're trying to fucking force us out. Mark Zuckerberg is buying another 600 acres. Where is the fucking recognition of the native Hawaiian genocide? Where is the goddamn sanctions up against your own fucking government? What is your goddamn reparations? There are none. There's a Hawaiian Pacific Islander month. Here, have a fucking month where Coca-Cola sells fucking hula dancers on their fucking tacky ass stolen water from dead Flint children, repackaged into bottles of sugar and fucking red dye number 40. Have a Hawaiian Pacific Islander month. Have a fun genocide. Here's a Kamala Harris fucking wearing a hula skirt. And then it's a the Uyghur. Watch this fucking video, okay? Please watch the Daniel Dumbro videos, okay? As extreme poverty alleviation and a poverty alleviation, actual social work, not stealing of indigenous children and breaking up of black and brown families, which is what social work amounts to in America and Canada. Actual social work that the Chinese do. The alleviation of 850 million people's actual poverty, as opposed to pushing millions into poverty like you've done to me and my family and my friends and my fellow Native Hawaiians and my fellow black and brown community. You fucking genocidal hypocrites. All of the West. German tourists in Waikiki fucking smoking pot right in front of the cops, and the cop arrests a Micronesian or a Native Hawaiian kid for just like walking into the street for jaywalking or some fucking bullshit. And this is while it's still illegal. No, it's Europeans. You're all fucking racist fascists. Fucking all of you. Disgusting. You know? Mask on fash. Mask on colonialists. Mask on racists. Mask on imperialists. Mask on genocide. You all, these people, Germany, Adrian fucking Zenz. He's not really mask on, is he? No, he's like, the Jews need to be melted down in a fire in hell if they don't convert to Christianity. We will burn Adrian Zenz is like, he's everything short of Sig Heil and Heil Hitler. And left, right, and center media, including leftists, continue to cite a literal fucking fascist, Adrian Zenz, on Xinjiang. If there's one thing that Western leftists hate more than admitting that they're racist, apparently, it's those freaking Chinamen stopping our colonialism. Because I will be damned if I stop streaming to my ex-Nazi friends on Twitch over some shitty Call of Colonialism video game talking about $15 minimum wages if a Chinese is gonna stop me, if a Chinaman is gonna stop me from doing that. That is a slur. I'm quoting what Western leftists have said. That's how you can tell who is in real solidarity. It's the people who can fucking actually have an actual an actual truthful, honest look at what China is. The people who cannot, they are still, their head is in their colonial and racist and genocidal, actual genocidal, as a genocide beneficiary. That's how you can tell who is in it for real, for actual international solidarity, and who is over there for the $30 sock them America, for your national socialism, Nazi, national socialistisch, not national socialism of America. That's what the sock them party of America is. It's mask on global fascism. But not white people on white people. It's white people on the global south. It's white people on their black community. The Nazis won, actually. And they put a mask on. And it's not Hydra. It's not some stupid ass Marvel military industrial complex billionaire philanthropist arms to the Playboy and Captain Star Spangled Underpants saving the world. No, it's not Hydra. It's the Democratic Party. It's Social Democrat Germany. It's Social Democrat Sweden that continues its neocolonialism of H&M. H&M's freaking out because the difference is the Western fascists that have solidarity among white European and Western white nations. That's what they have. The fascists got together and they said, okay, we're gonna go back to doing fascism only against Chinese, H&M. We're gonna do fascism. Germany, we're gonna do fascism against Xinjiang by pushing Uyghurs back into poverty, by boycotting their cotton under false pretenses of forced labor, with German neo-Nazis like Adrian Zenz backing our fucking sock them, please. I mean, if you want to pretend to not be fascists left of the West, maybe choose somebody who isn't a fucking overt anti-Semite like fucking Adrian Zenz from Germany. Maybe choose somebody who doesn't want women and homosexuals to be unequal to straight and white men. Maybe choose somebody who doesn't work for the fucking Victims of Communism Foundation and is a State Department cutout personal puppet of fucking the CIA. Maybe choose somebody who isn't a fucking neo-Nazi. But no, that's how you can tell who is not in solidarity, is the people who still continue to gobble up Adrian Zenz was brought on to, I talked about him a lot, obviously, right? Adrian Zenz was brought on to Democracy Now! And they gave him a real nice puff piece interview. It's real nice for the fucking neo-Nazi, because Democracy Now! Is part of mask on fascism. And some people, they don't realize that they are, and mask on genocide. Maybe they don't realize what they are. Some that they don't want to look at what they are, because they like benefiting from their global imperialism, which is global fascism, with white and Western solidarity, right? The Germans will stop fighting the UK. We'll all just beat up on China and we'll keep extracting Africa. The French and the Americans, okay, we'll stop the back and forth. Japan will stop hitting Pearl Harbor, but we'll get together and we'll beat up on, we'll extract from the Southeast Asia, we'll fascism Asia. The Germans and Americans will team up with the South African Elon Musk to coup whoever we want. We'll fascism Bolivia with literal goose-stepping Nazis, shooting in the face, not with pepper balls, not with rubber bullets, not with tear gas canisters, with live 30-06, with live Full Metal Jacket ammunition, shooting into the faces of indigenous people, doing with actual Nazis. But not in Germany, not in America. We won't fascism each other. We'll fascism the global south. We'll fascism Central South America. We'll fascism Africa. We'll fascism Asia. We'll fascism the Pacific. We'll continue to shoot native Hawaiians like myself. with a nice blue democratic face, and we'll put an LGBTQ plus and a Black Lives Matter, Hawaiian Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter bracelets all over our cops' arms as we do a fascisms. You fucking fascist, genocidal fucking hypocrites. Please watch this video. I'm just gonna show a little still because I don't want to get in trouble for.
I spent 25.
I don't want to get in trouble for this, but you know, this is an important. Daniel Dumbro goes to Xinjiang. I don't know if Holly has that in the list yet. That's why. But it's a video where Daniel goes to. Daniel is a. I think it's important. Daniel Dumbro is a Latin Latin American Latinx person from Canada. Definitely not white. He's like he was not. I don't count as white. Definitely not in Canada. And who is in China, and his family, his wife is Chinese, and his children are Chinese. Well, obviously they're mixed, but you know, like he lives in and speaks the language, and makes a lot of important videos talking about what is actually happening there, right? And the part that made like fucking I started to tear up was like where it's the, you know, he's in this area of south of Xinjiang, the Kyrgyz village. I believe they're related to Kyrgyzstan, unless I could be mistaken about that. But the U.S. is also backing increased tensions in that whole region. Kyrgyzstan and it was Kyrgyzstan and another region. There's actual violence erupting there, but America, as admitted by FBI whistleblower Sybil Gerard, has been behind every extremist Uyghur attack in Xinjiang. That's Sybil Edmonds. I'm sorry, and she was sued by the U.S. government to stop talking about that revelation, that it's actually the United States is behind all of this, and actually continues to bomb Uyghurs. But anyways, but in Kyrgyzstan and in these Kyrgyz areas of Xinjiang, Daniel goes through and is like looking at the poverty alleviation. I'll just get some stills of this, you know. And in this is the region where they have you know, and he's talking about how he visited the region, and there's extreme poverty. People don't have access to the things that they need. They don't have water. They didn't have food. They didn't have access to reliable sources of nutrition. People starved. Their houses were falling apart. They were too far from their schools and their stores, etc. They didn't have basic necessities, things that Westerners never have and probably never will struggle with. Now they're slightly starting to struggle occasionally when their water pipes explode with no sewer. You ever had your water pipes go out and no electricity? Try being in Syria. Try being in Syria. Try being in Iraq where you get 1 hour electricity a day. If you're lucky, maybe go a year with zero electricity. Texans are over there freaking out. You're not even close to what you do when you do actual fascism, where you do your actual extraction, your actual biggest capitalism, that is imperialism around the world. And in this region, they have extreme poverty, and the Chinese government built and their poverty elite, they're social workers. This is why it's like it's heartening for me, because I'm like, as a social worker, which is what Neofeud is about, who is tasked with alleviating the poverty, with doing actual socialism, alleviating poverty, helping people get what they need, not just get what they need, but alter their life in such a way, like get the education. Oh my God, I don't know how to fix a pipe. I never had a pipe before. Here's how you fix a pipe. Let me help you with this. Social work, it's ultimately it's actually practicing aloha, which is not just a word that means hello and goodbye. Thanks for coming to our Waikiki capitalist fucking tacky fake luau for $200 while we work starvation wages. Aloha is not just, aloha means a deep and wide and vast love. Aloha is like living communism in a Western Marxist academic sense. And it's about helping people to live their life. It's about actually caring and enough and materially providing and helping people, not just providing, but helping people get themselves into a state where they can sustainably provide for themselves as well. You know, it's about like teaching, quote unquote, teaching a man to fish. So all these allegorical and sayings that the West has about how to live a good life that they never follow. All these Western imperialist countries and their peoples. And social work is about getting people to not so that, because that's what the West does is give Africa one fish for 1,000 people and then extract all of their resources. Here, have one school, and we're going to bomb 1,000 schools with our colonial war in the Congo, in Libya, and then we're going to extract, billions and billions of dollars of all your resources and keep you in the mud. America is give the starving, homeless, African, Asian, Latinx person, Native Hawaiian, here, have one fish, and then give me all your fish, give me all your culture, give me all of your resources. Here, buy all my opium. Here, give me all your lithium, Bolivia. Give me all your stuff. And you're going to get one fish and maybe half of a school, right? And then we'll take a picture of the school, put it on Bill Gates' front page. You go, look at me. I'm a billionaire philanthropist saving the world from global poverty, blah, 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 blah. You fucking apartheid, COVID-19, literal villain from Johnny Mnemonic. He's like the Pharmacom corporation that manufactures the disease and the cure. I don't know if he manufactures the disease. Well, America definitely goes around the world with its military plague ships, docks its destroyers and battleships in Guam, in Okinawa, in Hawaii, and then literally unloaded the plague, because America's military is filled to the brim with COVID. It's one of the biggest. Marines are 40% saying we're not going to even get a vaccine. America's military, they don't even do any testing. They just drop the plague into everywhere that they go. In Hawaii, the COVID numbers skyrocketed when the American military had the RIMPAC international war games here. And social work in the West is about pretending to give Africa a hospital and then bombing their hospitals and then taking all their resources and keeping them undeveloped. It's about going to Bolivia. Oh, look at this. We care about one indigenous, buying a Cusco album and not even like acknowledging the fact that you just totally culturally appropriated it, selling it to some fucking a hippie liberal doing a ayahuasca cleanse and going to a yoga class in California, and then backing the international corporations and banks that are going to Bolivia and sucking all the indigenous people's lithium, copper, coltan, anything else that they have, their coca, their agricultural products, and just keeping them in the mud. Here, have a basket of rice. Here, have a fish. Here, have a fish. Give us all your fucking everything, your fish and everything else. The West is about never teaching the Africans to fish, and not just fish, to build hospitals, giving them education, giving them the economic development to stand on their own 2 feet. And that's the opposite of what China is doing in Africa, in Latin America, in their own country. That's what actual social work is not just, oh, here, you can have $200 of measly and insufficient universal, here's a little bit of a benefit which do help, but that is insufficient. America's, here, you can have some Brazil also did this. Here, just have some cash. Meanwhile, leaving the capitalism to fester. Some of the mistakes of that were made before Bolsonaro, and then he just came in and said, "Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna do whatever America wants, and I'm a fucking outward fascist. Let's just kill all the indigenous people." So Bolsonaro was, but before that, they made mistakes of giving, and the Brazilians were actually saying, like, there's actually a Brazilian on Dongsheng, the China news. Daniel Dumbrell interviews them like every week for about an hour, and he said, as a Brazilian, we had good programs, but our poverty alleviation on our social programs were not as good as China's, because China not only does it just give you some cash, it makes sure that the people's needs are met, not just only their needs met, not just only like, oh, did they get enough money? Did they get on Section 8? America doesn't even do that. They're just like, fuck you. Here, go on a 30-year waiting list, Hawaiian. Fuck you, black person. Yeah, we're not building any affordable housing. Are you kidding me? Most of our even $100,000 a year making white people can't afford their housing anymore. Or healthcare. We ain't gonna give you affordable housing. Fuck you. But in China, not only do they make sure, they don't just give you money. They make sure that the people have their housing, have their food, have their education, their basic services. And in fact, they gifted 3-bedroom houses to these people in the Kyrgyz people. Just as one example. Not. Oh, here's Section 8. If you can get on the waiting list, it costs $900 a month. $2,000. Affordable housing is what, $1,100 a month instead of $1,500 for a 1-bedroom. Are you fucking kidding me? And I gotta wait 30 years for that? America has no housing program. America has no poverty. America only has poverty creation programs. It's a joke. Whereas the Chinese literally sign over. They sign the house to the impoverished person in the kilograms village. No questions asked. Like, here, how many people are in your family? 3, 4? Okay, you get 690 square foot, brand new, very nice apartment. Not some rundown old piece of shit from 1935 that has rusting water pipes belching out burning plastic smelling water that is liquid Drano and dog feces blended up with some frack water. Here's your affordable housing. Rotten slum full of rats. Go fuck yourself, black person, poor brown, poor white, brown person, poor native Hawaiian. Now China gives brand new apartments, houses, 3 bedrooms for a family of 4, and like 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms for families that are larger than that, who also were unable to have that. Because why? Because the one-child policy didn't apply to the ethnic minorities. America has a 0-child policy for the indigenous peoples. It's called kill the Indian, save the man, save the man. Kill the Indian, and then kill the planet. It's more like, because when you make everybody into a white capitalist American, then the planet's gone in nuclear fire and climate change at the same time. So to kill the Indian, but America has a 0-child ethnic minority proposition. Let's take every Hawaiian child, rip them from their parents' arms under the guise of social work, give them to an abusive white family. Let's take all the black and brown people and lock them all the fuck up. Let's take all the Indian people and all the indigenous First Nations people and ban all their languages and all their cultures. Let's fucking rip them into shreds. America has a destroy indigenous child policy. Whereas China has a 1-child policy, and then it has a 2 or 3 child. It has literally, you can have more children. And also, you can have your language. Unlike in Hawaii, where our language is still banned. I'm going to keep saying that. Because people need to get it through their fucking Western fake leftist head. That their country is doing a genocide. And if the next time every time I see anyone talk about the goddamn Uyghur genocide, this has to be said. I know it's unpopular for you and your fucking fake leftist and fake liberal, your little liberal circle, and all your friends in your university, in your water cooler, around the job. Maybe you don't have a job, in your Discord server, on your Twitch stream, in your socialists, your anarchists, your other group. You don't want to talk about this. You don't want to talk about China is done. And if you are one of that group, you are participating in the annihilation. You are participating in my genocide. Thank you for fucking participating in my genocide by propagating fake fucking genocide stories of a country that's the only country that is capable of liberating large numbers of people from poverty around the world and inside of its own fucking country, because your country ain't gonna do it. The fucking anarchist collective of fucking Oregon ain't doing it. I mean, they're doing important work to stop people from dying in the streets, but you ain't gonna fucking liberate us. I'm fucking sorry. It wasn't the anarchists and the Marxist-Leninists of the Western left that came down to Hawaii and stopped the fucking bombing and stopped the fucking manufacture of a $2 billion corporate project. It was the native Hawaiian people fighting for our own goddamn decolonization that did it. You're too busy over there fucking puppeting your empires, mommies and daddies in DC and Wall Street's stories about fucking fake genocides. Apparently, the Chinese gave brand new, even white top 10% earners in America, United Airlines aircraft engineers in America that I know, in Honolulu, they were literally living in vans themselves, in Chevy Suburbans, in a Walmart parking lot, driving to work in Honolulu International Airport to be tier 1 engineers fixing and maintaining the turbines of Boeing 767 aircrafts, the ones that don't crash, because America's neofeudalism is cannibalizing all of its capacity to produce planes, trucks, and infrastructure, including water and streets and roads and bridges and all that stuff that Biden isn't going to fix because he has no capacity to, because he's just a little puppet of his plutocracy. This idea that it's like that aircraft engineer would have fucking jumped at the opportunity to be a Uyghur. He'd be like, holy shit, I could get a brand new apartment for free, signed into my name, with a gainful employment that I could get. Like they built these greenhouses that are right behind her. So they give you an apartment. The Chinese government, they give its ethnic minorities a brand new, dignified housing space, 3-bedroom or 4-bedroom or whatever size you need, brand new, clean water. It doesn't count as housing. This is another thing. America is majority in poverty by Chinese standards, because to count as housing, the water has to be safe to drink. Most of America's water is not fucking safe. You're all in poverty according to China. 3,000 communities across America, not just Flint, the white communities in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, Californian communities. Most of America's infrastructure is fucking not safe. Even in wealthy white communities in upstate New York, like there's even Harvard surrounding like gated communities had rotten water. That is poverty by the Chinese. You need potable water, clean water, safe a sewage situation, not overflowing hookworm paradises like across the America's South and the quote-unquote heartland, and typhus villages and that in Los Angeles, San Francisco. That is not housed. That is poverty under China's definition. Most of America is in poverty under China's definition. You are all a loser country. Abject failures. Biden is not going to do fucking shit. The money, as we speak, is going straight into a high-frequency trading private equity firm like Bankwalk algorithms to fucking bid up the price of collateralized debt obligations of Texans next year when you die from the rest of your... The infrastructure is not being fixed. You know the $16,751 that people were paying when the Day After Tomorrow's prequel, Tomorrow, brought super cooled air out of the troposphere and fucking like blasted into Texas, freezing their pipes, destroying electrical grids for the huge... 10,000% price gouging of all of the Texas for the profit of New York bank-owned giant equity firms that own all of these shell electrical companies who aren't fixing their grid. You're all gonna die next year too. It's not gonna get any better. Biden's not gonna do shit. He can't. California is gonna burn this summer. It's gonna be abysmal. I'm so sorry. You're gonna burn, and black slaves arrested for standing on the side of a street corner in front of a 7-Eleven while being black, who are going to continue to put out the fires in the neo-slavery system backed by Top Cop Kamala and Mr. Crime Bill, drug war. I never saw a black person I didn't want to cage, and Hispanic I didn't want to put in a concentration camp. Mr. Biden, he ain't going to make that any motherfucking better. No, black people will continue to burn, putting out for $1 an hour slave labor, the fires of George Lucas, of Taylor Swift, of Mr. Cuomo, of Mr. Newsom, and of Nancy Pelosi. Everyone's gonna die in California and suffer. Nothing will get better because America can't make anything better because you don't have a country. You have a Gucci belt wrapped around a landfill. Geez, China has a country. That's you really need to look at trying to figure out how you can work with China to get them to build you an actual fucking functioning water system, because America can't do that. You know, now China's not going to do it because they don't believe in intervening. They're getting more. Sometimes I wish they would intervene more, but I mean, I understand that would be against their actual anti-imperialist, actual anti-socialist, actual socialist, anti-imperialist ways. They're not going to come into California, unlike what America fucking arms dealers try to propagate. At one point, they're saying, look, Chinese warships docking in California, taking over all of Chinese flags flying over the capital of Washington. Oh my God, the Chinese are in Oregon. They're coming. They have the missiles are going to be pointed straight. America is the fucking country with the missiles all fucking surrounding the goddamn China and Russia. But the thing is, if China actually, if America became an autonomous region of China, Americans would all be 50 times better off. Americans would have like clean water by now, you know? Americans would be treated like Uyghurs. If America was an autonomous region of China, Americans would have clean water like the Kyrgyz impoverished people do. If America was an autonomous region of China, Americans would all have brand new 3-bedroom houses because you're all living in poverty. Very sad that you choose to continue to let your plutocracy kill you like that and keep you in the fucking gutter. So sad. If America was an autonomous region of China, you would have, because it's unacceptable, your conditions in America. If America was an autonomous region of China, people would have the universal basic healthcare. You wouldn't need a universal basic income because all your needs would be covered. If America was an autonomous region of China, I mean, it would be, but China can't, is not, and they can't, and they won't do that. You know, because that would be forcing one's ways. That would be forcing their ways on and their culture, and violation of your sovereignty, right? Which is not a thing that they're gonna do, right? Unlike America is fine with doing that to Native Hawaiians. America's fine with doing that to the rest of the world, making them all speak fucking English and banning their language. And it's an important thing. People actually in this region of China, people actually speak. They do speak in this region. They do speak Mandarin, but they also, because sometimes they can get along, you kind of like matching the other, because again, there are actually thousands of different languages in China. There are 56 different ethnic regions that are all recognized and allowed to exist and actually are supported in their culture, in their populations, in their health. They are disproportionately represented in university. They have actual like affirmative action, but like it actually works. Unlike in America, where black people are 10 times poorer than white families, black families in America, despite all this affirmative action, are actually worse off now than they were before the civil rights movement in terms of economic differentials. They actually do social work. They actually do poverty alleviation and decrease the disparities and inequality between ethnic minorities. It's what America says it's all about: freedom and equality and lack of and no discrimination based on all of these things. America its constitution is toilet paper that its system and its people wipe their ass with every day when they go out and be racist, visibly mask off or mask on wise. China is actually living by America's constitution better than America. That's the joke. Even it's America's so-called left that can't fucking get its head out of its ass to stop retweeting Adrian Zenz. And it really is too busy holding on to its whiteness, hoping that it'll get a German $35 pencil factory worker, sock them neo-colonial with sock them internal. Most of America is not at radical solidarity. Not even close. Not even close. Now, I hope that one day that they will stop just being ex-Nazi, ex-alt-righters, or just liberal. I want my $30 and my personal health care and fuck the rest of the world. And I'm not gonna touch the U.S. military, because my mommy and daddy work for them, and that's how I'm gonna get my $30 nice air condition and my Baby Yoda t-shirt and my Witcher 3 and my Cyberpunk 2077 system for cheap, is by continued colonialism. And I want my $30 wage, and I want my healthcare, and I want my house. Fuck all this rest of the world. No, most of America is not even close to that. The ones that are disproportionately indigenous. They're black and brown. They're women. They're LGBTQ+. They're trans. But that's what is actually needed. This idea that we can just coast by. But anyway, and the sad thing is the insistence, this insistence that, well, I'm just gonna ride for Biden, or I'm just gonna push for my wage increase. I'm gonna push for my settler colonial cut of planetary imperialism and capitalism, while pushing for a little more socialism internally for me. And then do a token penance, and I'm so sorry, here, have $1 for this concentration camp at the border. This war that we caused. These poor black and Derek. And the idea that you're gonna fucking muddle through with that is part of why the Uyghurs are doing better than you. Because America is like, we're gonna. Don't worry, Trump and Biden voters. We're gonna come around for y'all. But America is plutocracy. It's trillionaire and billionaire, near trillionaire and billionaire and multi-hundred millionaires that run this whole. They don't give a fuck. They're gonna eat you for alive. You think they're gonna turn around, as they're hollowing this thing out, and they're gonna they're gonna build back better? No, they're gonna bury you better. They're gonna bury you back better for money. That's Neofeud. That's what they're doing. Biden does not have the Biden does not have the capacity. He himself is just a fucking puppet of the people that are more powerful than him. Wall Street and the military-industrial complex, who obviously don't give a shit about anything. They don't even give a shit about their own life. They're too busy trying to start a hot war in the South China Sea, shooting fucking hypersonic missiles at Chinese fishing and carriers, trying to start a nuclear war. They don't care about their own life, let alone your life. I mean, the neocon and some of the neoliberals are like, well, maybe not nuclear war, but even Hillary Clinton was the one who wanted to start nuclear war with Russia with a no-fly zone over Syria. So so you gotta get your fucking head out of your ass. That you're gonna muddle through this, ignoring the military-industrial complex, ignoring all of your racist family, not just the overt Trump voter MAGA, but the liberal and all the Karen and all the I feel a little bit bad, but I like actually going in my yoga studio across from a Chase Bank, across from a Starbucks, across from a Chase Bank, across from a Starbucks, everywhere across America, whether that's the West, East, Florida, everywhere, because we're all a monocultural genocide. We like eliminated all. America doesn't have 56 or thousands of different ethnic regions because America annihilates differences. That's the Western imperial kind of core. You're all gonna be Christian, English-speaking, white male. It's just a morass of cancerous male, full of hydrogenated soybean oil. You're just gonna be hydrogenated soybean oil, fucking whiteness. We'll just obliterate everything, kind of like the Death Star and all those stormtroopers that are all white. We're just gonna obliterate all differences. You're all gonna be McDonald's, a yoga studio, a Chase Bank. If there is any indigeneity and ethnicity, it's gonna be fake white liberal co-opted Cusco or some Waikiki version of Hawaiianness that isn't even fucking real. You're all gonna be Westworld androids, abused day and night and tortured, but with an actual culture under it. It's called Waikiki. It's called Hawaii. Hawaii is a living Westworld with actual human beings, and that's all gonna be. And we're gonna, but it's not even gonna be real Hawaii. It's gonna be a cultural zoo version of Hawaiianness. It's gonna be a cultural zoo version of indigeneity. I don't want to see your actual electric moccasins. No, we're not gonna give you funding for your program, indigenous game developer Megan Byrne, because we only want to see the fake, only the fake powwow. I don't want to see. Indigeneity has to be the way that we want to see it. Otherwise, we're not going to watch your indigenous made movie. We're not going to watch your indigenous made. We're not going to play your indigenous game. If you have indigenous native peoples, First Nations peoples in so-called Canada or America with futuristic technology and science fictional, like Wakanda in Canada, of indigenous peoples, we're not going to fund that. We're not going to sponsor that. You know why? Because we can't allow indigenous peoples to live the way that they have been living, which is more technologically advanced than Americans. We can't allow the story of Hawaii to be revealed, which is that the Native Hawaiians had a higher literacy rate, had better technology, had better social, political, and economic development, had racial equality when America still had slavery. Black people could be citizens of Hawaii. Asian people, when America had the Chinese Exclusion Act, banned people from even entering and was enslaving the Chinese to build the railroads in the West Coast, and Hawaiians had citizen Chinese, equal citizens working together in hui, which is a word that means cooperative. And actually we're existing cooperatives, which is how Hawaiian culture is. And that's part of why, the U.S. is, there's no possibility of it ever making good, because in order to actually heal, the United States is a massive tumor on the face of fucking planet Earth. In order to heal, it means taking a scalpel and slicing the entire tumor off, and there is no United States after that. Its founding fathers are genocidal, 260 slave-owning, racist pedophiles that raped 14-year-old black girls while calling them animals. Andrew Jackson on your $20 bill slit the throats of indigenous people and got elected for that, on being the most racist of the racists and the most murderous of the black and brown murderers. If America was to heal, racial healing for America would mean the vaporization of the entire country. It would mean the non-existence of the American flag. It would mean the non-existence of all American money. It would mean the end of the American empire. Racial healing for America means the end of the United States. There's no and America is not going to heal of its own accord. If there is any healing, it's because the children of people who once identified as American no longer identify as American, and have stood against their empire. It's not going to happen today, tomorrow, and probably not 5 or 10 years from now. It's probably going to take 30 years when everybody who is alive in 2060, I hopefully when we have a planet, because we went down, because Americans stopped fucking doing America's imperial work for them, stopping the Communist Party of China. It's the Communist Party of China, you should remember. And stopping, not just, and the Communist Party are the people as well. They have 90 to 95% approval. This is the thing that Western leftists have to say. I support the people of China, not the Chinese government. If the people support the government. You cannot stand against the government. You standing against the Chinese government and saying the Chinese people should overthrow their government is actually anti-Chinese people. Also, you're also backing whatever you think about the criticism. It's not that there aren't legitimate criticisms to be had. Like, I have criticisms of aspects of things that Hawaiians do and other Pacific Islanders, particularly in my own family, right? But again, as I believe was it Mao that said, the primary contradiction, we cannot allow small squabbles and small, not insignificant and not unimportant, but smaller problems and disagreements to lead us to fight against the primary contradiction. What is the primary contradiction? The primary contradiction is, if you're in the West, you are the primary contradiction. I'm so fucking sorry. My existence ultimately, right? As somebody who was raised, that's part of my whole thing is, like, I was raised to be an American. If you asked me 20 years ago, I would have said, oh yeah, no, I'm an American through and through. I'm going to be a rock star, or maybe I'll be a programmer making, six figures, $670,000 a year as a Goldman Sachs high frequency trading algorithm programmer, bidding up the price of rice in North Africa to car starvation, but pretending not to recognize that, drinking, $400 wine in a fucking plant house next to Bloomberg's luxury neo-feudal palaces, and if you asked me, that's what I would have said. I would have said, yo, no, I'm American. I don't think that anymore. I was the primary contradiction by that example. And if you continue to identify that way, if you continue and you support the empire of the United States, and it's fully illegitimate country, and you have to also recognize that just because your country is illegitimate, your empire is illegitimate, that doesn't make every other people's government illegitimate also, right? People who have watched the OI can recognize that while America abuses its own people and the rest of the world, the Vietnamese government isn't bombing kids in Yemen. It isn't blowing up hospitals in Pakistan. The Vietnamese government is not perfect. It isn't. Absolutely not. The Hawaiian government wasn't perfect. But the Hawaiian government wasn't the planetary primary contradiction, and the Hawaiian government was not illegitimate. The American government is fully illegitimate. By its own people, by its own approval rating, in the doldrums of the 30s and 40s at best. Under President Trump, even lower. But the Senate is like in the less than, it's in the single digits a lot of the time. The U.S. Congress. America has no legitimacy for its own people. The Chinese were very right to point out to Tony Blinken, Mr. Biden's imperialist emissary in chief. America doesn't represent the world opinion. It doesn't even represent the American people's opinion. America's government only represents its political and business elite. It's top 1%. That's all America's government represented. It's fully illegitimate, and you have to recognize that. You have to recognize that, and that the United States and its allies are the primary contradiction, and also that doesn't negate other people's structuring their societies in ways that are not imperialistic, in ways that are not completely illegitimate, in ways that are, and I know that's very difficult if you're a white anarchist in the United States. And that is a valid thing to be, right? Because that's a thing that is required as part of the end of this empire, right? But you have to also recognize that because your experience and your encounters with the police, with the government, have been terrible. You have been abused by your government and your businesses, and this is abysmal and abominable. That doesn't mean that people's experiences in Cuba or Vietnam, or China for that matter, are the same as yours. That is Western left exceptionalism. And I know it's very hard because you haven't lived as a Vietnamese person. You haven't lived as a Uyghur. You haven't lived as a Native Hawaiian. You cannot, because you're a white leftist in America. You're white. You've been raised white. Your family is white. You're surrounded by white assholes. You're surrounded by your patriarchal government, your patriarchal boss, ex-pastor, boyfriends, girlfriends, non-binary friends. Even in the left does this persist with sexual abuse and all these problems still in so many communities because they haven't done the work of fully undoing their Western imperial whiteness. But you also have to recognize that there are other places that have materially, vastly different histories, presence, cultures, governments, businesses, relationships to colonialism, and they also are not perfect places, but they don't need you standing their overthrow of their governments also, you know? And they don't need you, because when you do that, you are actually doing the bid. While you may be helping the mass murdered and incarcerated black and brown people and a lot of the working class in America, by going, well, the Chinese government is the same as the American government, or the Vietnamese government is the same as the American government, the Cuban government, we should just overthrow all of them. You can be helping people inside of the United States while also doing the bidding of the United States against the people in Vietnam, in China, in the global South, and also in Hawaii, you know, because actually, as I said before, I think that it will require the international solidarity to liberate Hawaii. I think it will require Hawaiians working with the Chinese, working with the Vietnamese, working with all of the global South together, because the Hawaiians, we're illegally occupied. We're technically the Hawaiians that identify fully as Hawaiian, not the ones who go, oh, I'm an American and I'm happy to make a 6-figure salary working for the government of Hawaii, being a UH administrator, fucking buying up land for Mark Zuckerberg. It's disgusting. Those people, you know, are the primary part of the primary contradiction of U.S. and Western imperialism, right? But the Hawaiian people who are like, no, I'm Hawaiian. I refuse to be. No, we are treated as the global South. You know, it's like, fuck you, go burn. You wanna try to stop the U.S. military and the U.S. University system, which is part of imperialism, academic imperialism. You want to stop the U.S. universities? American universities are hedge funds with a facade of educational characteristics. Are you kidding me? Even the German ones that gave Adrian Zenz his degree. This is just a sad joke. America doesn't have an education system. It has a brain poison system. It's very sad. But if you identify fully as I'm a native Hawaiian of the illegal occupied sovereign country of Hawaii, America is going to treat you the way that it treats the rest of the global South. Which is, and even if you don't, America still is going to be racist and terrible against you. But if you really go and America going to round y'all up with the biggest military and police action against anyone in the history of Hawaii was against Native Hawaiians in 2019. 8,000 plus arrests, U.S. military, B-52A Stratofortress, the U.S. military bombing the mountain. They're still bombing the mountain, but they went hard to bomb the shit out of that mountain the same way that they bombed Uyghurs. But they bombed the Uyghurs on their head. America commits genocide by exploding Uyghur bodies into little bits of blood and bone in eastern Afghanistan, doing actual genocide. That's how America deals with extremism that it made by its own admittance of FBI whistleblowers, is to fucking just blow people up. See, China's re-education, this is the other thing. People talk about re-education, forced labor. I know I talk about this a lot, but I feel like it's important because after you stop watching one of my streams, you're going to be surrounded by 800 million Westerners in your left, right, and center circles. Your news, your family, your coworkers, your Discord, your Twitch friends, your university class discussion groups, your seminar, even your Marxist seminar. You're going to be surrounded by people that are going to be blasting this anti-Asian, anti-Chinese, war propaganda, imperial propaganda left and right and center. So I feel like I have to reiterate this stuff. Until I see that the majority of the Western left is like, we support the Chinese people, which means also supporting the Chinese government against our government, and I don't see that, I'm gonna have to keep saying this stuff. I'm not Chinese. I am part Asian. My dad is, I have Japanese in my family. My grandma again. Some parts of my family went to the concentration camps in the United States for being Asian. But I'm not Chinese. But part of radical solidarity is not just projecting your experiences onto the rest of the world. It's actually listening, not talking about the Chinese, not having two white guys and even two Americans of whatever ethnicity talking about the Chinese. Is listening to the actual fucking Chinese in your YouTube, in your stream. If you need some, Zhang Yu Chao Collective, Carl Za, Radio Free Amanda, get one of them, bring them on your stream. If you want to talk about China, their government, anything, anti-Asian racism, get a person of actual, ideally Zhang Yu is actually from Taiwan. Get somebody from the place you're talking about. Because the Asian experience in the America is different from the Asian experience. And a lot of the stuff that I know about this is by listening to people that are not in America, in actual Asia. Asian people that are, the Chow Collective is a left media collective, right? If you are talking over them, you are a white supremacist. You are a Western exceptionalist. You are an imperialist. And you are full of shit. And go fuck yourself. Because the only time I really, the majority of the time when I see people like spreading the stories about China, it's from a white face, usually a white guy. Not necessarily Adrian Zenz. No, often it's a liberal face or a left face. And you need to get that because obviously partially, yeah, it is partially like my material condition is getting the US to stop bombing the mountain that's less than 30 miles from where I'm streaming. It's getting your empire off of my native Hawaiian back and stop genociding me, killing my fucking family. Yeah, it's like very real. If Hawaii, even if Hawaii is not going to become an autonomous region of China because that's not what they do. But even if China was to assist in building up trade with Hawaii against the U.S. empire and assist us in providing more support to help us against the U.S. empire, the primary contradiction that is in my material interest. That's why I said fuck your empire. Donald Trump Donald Trump is terrible, and I hate all the things that he says and the things that he stands for. He's horrible on COVID, but the way that he accelerated the decline of the U.S. empire, yeah, that's great. You should be celebrating that as well. You know, if you really were you had radical actual left solidarity across the planet for all people, not just people in your little country. And then your personal little feel less guilty today's trip, donating some fucking 30 cents from your coffee, or retweeting somebody. I mean, that's great, but I mean, you just I'm gonna reshare this sad article about this indigenous people or this concentration camp, and then go back to backing my fucking empire and lying about China. No, the reason this is why you can really tell because yes, Cuba is great. Yes, it's important that the concentration camps at the border of the United States, where America is mass incarcerating and ripping the uteruses out and killing children in quote unquote summer camps, fun, nice daycare summer camps now. Because again, that's competent fascism. While that is important to be brought to the light, what has happened to George Floyd, the policing, racist policing and racism and inequality in America is important to bring to light. The black people of the United States, as it is right now, they represent a threat to the United States because their legitimate claims, indigenous legitimate claims, do ultimately, over the long haul, represent a threat. But they can't overthrow the United States at this second, right? They can't undo the United States. They can't not overthrow, but we never do anything illegal. They can't undo the U.S. empire as it stands right now. They don't have the power to do that. Not right now. One day you might have more, but China does have the power to actually not defeat, but to again, the China, we want to cooperate, but we can't cooperate if you're going to be constantly trying to fight us, right? But China can actually combat U.S. and planetary colonialism and American exploitation by being the other option, by going, hey, America and UK, they give 0 vaccines to Brazil, South and Central America, to Africa, to the entire global South, to Asia, right? China's like, hey, and not also Russia, and so is Vietnam and Cuba. They've been participating. China is going, hey, America doesn't want to give you. If America doesn't want to alleviate poverty, if America doesn't want to give you aloha, as I would say, America doesn't want to help you in a mutually beneficial way, liberate yourselves from poverty, like not just give you a fish, but teach you how to fish. And not just teach you how to fish, teach you how to do electrical engineering, get your schools, get roads, get hospitals built. Not one hospital, take a picture with a fucking child of a fucking Trustafarian trillionaire sitting in upstate New York doing an NGO one time. Oh, look at my electric solar powered hospital that I built. I'm so good and social entrepreneur. And then mommy and daddy blow up the rest of the country and then take the resources. No, China's like, we're going to build you like actual infrastructure. We're going to alleviate 400 million we're gonna alleviate hundreds of millions of people from poverty, like for real, in Africa. Now we're gonna benefit from this, yes, but it'll be mutually beneficial. Sometimes they could do it better. They could be like, less neoliberal corporations. And again, China is not a monolith either. They have a lot of reactionary colonial capitalists at the southeast side, and that they recognize that. They go like, this corruption is really bad. We got to get rid of these. There's too many billionaires down there, and we have to deal with that. The Communist Party is trying to recognize that. They're actually cracking down on the billionaires. They actually have they find huge fines for Jack Ma, for the big tech companies. They're all running scared now. They actually have cadres that go in and work gig economy jobs. Like it would be like if Senator Ted Cruz or Kamala Harris worked inside of an Amazon factory or for Uber, and they got these gig economy places in big ass trouble for, hey man, this is really exploitative. I work for 12 hours a day and I got paid terribly, and I didn't even get paid some of my wages. And then they got these huge companies got fined, right? So they do have these problems, right? But they do actually recognize the problems. The people recognize the problems, and they're like, we're not perfect, but we will materially help you out of poverty. Look at these other places. Look at Brazil that got a free satellite, $1 billion satellite launched into orbit. Look at Bolivia. Look at Bolivia. We gave them 51% deal to give them over half of their lithium profits. What was Germany offering? 3%. Neocolonialism. What was Elon Musk offering? 0%. And we're going to take your country with fascism, with the backing of the United States empire and the intelligence community, right? China offered 51%. Again, now you could go, well, I mean, the corporations, they were going to do some wage arbitrage and subcontracting is bad. And they would even say, yeah, some of the ways that our corporations, particularly, not the Communist Party of China and their state owned enterprises tend to be much fairer, right? Because it's the fucking Communist Party. Not to say that they're perfect either, but they do give a better deal. But if you ask them, hey, this is not fair, as Yanis Varoufakis, again, it was mostly the Southeast corporate, and a lot of that is the legacy of the British occupation of Hong Kong, the American and British and other Western powers, colonial insertion of their capitalist exploitative ways into that area, Taiwan, etc. That creates a lot of Twinkies. I mean, like it's like white inside. I mean, I know that's not really the best term, but I mean, I'll call them coconuts. Brown outside, white inside. I got family members that are fucking white. They're culturally American white. They're millionaires and they are abusive to brown people, and they are brown people who try to stay out of the sun and bleach their skin white. It's really disgusting. And that's a problem. Whenever colonialism and capitalism show up, they're gonna leave the seeds and the stains of that. And then the people, they might be, they're children of Hawaiians, but they're raised to be Western American imperialist capitalists. And anyway, long story short, so and Giannis has said there were the Chinese the deal was, it was 60% versus 40% for us. I don't think that's very fair. They're paying, the wages were too low. We need better wages. We need the ability to bargain, and also we want pensions. We want our pensions to be reinstated. I want more money for our pensions. And then it went back to the Communist Party of China, and they came back and they said the Communist Party of China cracked down on the subcontractor parts of the more reactionary capitalist parts of China, and okay, you get 50%. Okay, we're gonna let the rate. We're gonna allow collective bargaining. We're gonna allow all these things. And again, not to say that deal is perfect either. But what was the German corporations what were the German corporations giving to Greece? The Germans, the fellow Europeans. You know what they're offering Greece? Nothing. You know what they're offering Greece? Here, I'm Wolfgang Schäuble at the fucking Deutsche Bank at the EU, and we cannot allow political changes to make changes in economics. The Greeks will die. You will have your hospitals, your roads, your pensions chopped in more than in half. We will eat you alive. The Greeks will suffer and die for their lazy little Greekness, and the German banks will backing their American big daddies at Goldman Sachs, who leveraged with sovereign subprime debt to finagle and Shanghai Greece into the EU. Shanghaiing is a term that the West used when they steal people and force people, particularly Chinese, into benefiting Western capitalists. This is where the term comes from. But when the Goldman Sachs forced Greece in by cooking their books with the complicity of plutocrats in Greece, and And Germany, who has 35,000 troops with huge ICBM missile bases of the United States all along the Russia's border, because Germany loves American imperialism as well, and it benefits from its support of its militarism and imperialism. Germany said, fuck you, Greece, you will all suffer and die. We're not going to build you one port. No, we're not going to build you one fucking port. Not for any of them. And if you want a port, how about 99% for Germany? How about 97% for Germany, 3% for Greece? Just like we gave Bolivia. How about that? Greece was like, that's like slavery. And Germany's like, yeah, because we're still Nazis and we treat South Americans and Africans and also Greeks, supposedly the founders of Western civilization. We'll treat the fathers of Western civilization like a bunch of black N-words because we're Germany and we're neo-fascist fucking Germany with mask on characteristics. Fuck you, Greece. And China had to come to Europe and be like, hey, your own European fellow white people are treating you really badly. Here, we're not perfect, but we'll actually build you a fucking port and we'll give you like 50%. Here, Bolivia, we'll help you modernize your lithium infrastructure and mine the lithium, and you will keep 50%. Here, we'll fund your education and your increase your education, increase your ability to get access to housing and advanced education, engineering, science degrees. We'll get you. We'll do actual social work, unlike what the West does, which is social impoverishment. We will get you able to fucking fish, so that you can fish with the rest of us around the world, and you can, we have some of our corporations are really shitty, particularly the ones in Taiwan, particularly the ones that are very close to UK and America. But what is the West offering you? Here, Africa. We'll work with Akon to liberate 400 million Senegalese and other Africans, like Akon's mom, a black man living in America, saying, I'm never going back to America. It's abysmal. I'm going back to Africa. This is where it's happening. America cannot, Akon, I said, America cannot ever be racially healed. I'm going back to Africa. I want to try to build Wakanda in Africa, because America is a hopeless, lost cause. If we liberate Africa, that actually will enable black people in America to be liberated. Not we're gonna go to America and make it there. No, fuck America. We're a bunch of dancing fucking Sam Crow entertainers as black people, dancing around and getting a little cut of the billionaires' millions. We got $1 million of the cut, entertaining them with our basketball and our hip hop dancing. That's all we are. We're still black monkeys to America. We're still like black N-words in the cages, entertaining them with our funny hair and our big red cartoon lips. That's all we are for America. Fuck America. I'm going to Africa to work with the Chinese to build a modernized indigenous African future with the help of the Chinese, who actually want to help, unlike America, which is impoverished Africa, unlike Europe, which continues to impoverish Africa. I'm going to work with the Chinese to get 400 million people actual electricity. Not give them a fucking fish and then take everything. We're gonna get everybody not only knowing how to fish, but knowing how to do solar power plants, to make our own African solar plants. We're gonna have our own currencies, our own cryptocurrency that backs the Akon city. We're gonna have our own engineers. We're gonna have our own biotechnicians. We're gonna have our own hospitals that are made by using African labor with the assistance of our actual colonized brothers, the Chinese. And guess what? 400 million people who didn't have electricity have solar powered electricity in Africa. It took centuries for countries in Africa to go from 1 to like 5 hospitals. In 1/20th of the time that it took America and the West to build like 5 hospitals in some for like per million people in some countries in Africa, they've built like 10,000 times that and liberated hundreds of millions from poverty. Not just got them healthcare, but got them housing, got them electricity, got them roads, right? And again, it's not in a perfect way either. Still under global capitalism that needs to fucking eventually end. But the West definitely is not doing this. And if you're a white Westerner, if you're a Western leftist of any color in America, Canada, any of these places, you need to recognize that. You need to listen to the people in Africa. You need to fucking watch this stream. Where is it? The myth of black. It's the myth of colonization. The myth of Chinese colonization of Africa, which is by an African from Africa. and an African who says himself, an African leftist says, I'm not an African American. I'm not an American. You need to stop listening to white people. See, if you share any article that's from any Western news agency, from Guardian, New York Times, Washington Post, Reuters, AP, Human Rights Watch, Voice of America, Voice of anything, that's all CIA cutouts. If you share any article about Africa from any source that isn't like an actual African source from people, I mean, also they have their own plutocracies down there. Like, we have them in Hawaii. Don't listen to fucking Hawaii. Don't listen to KITV. It's just fucking like bought or paid for Hawaiians working for the television networks of the colonies. Listen to the actual the left. If you're a leftist, left media groups, Black Alliance for Peace, again, Child Collective, International Asian Leftist Media. If you are sharing articles from any Western source, if you're reading articles from any Western and even Western backed, or if you're a white guy talking about Africa and China and Africa, Belt and Road Initiative, this is all absolute garbage. You're filling your brain with Western imperialist brain poison, and you are assisting your empire. You can have an A with an O in it in your bio. You can have read Kropotkin and Marx 25,000 times. You are doing capitalism's work for it. You need to find these sources. You need to, if you're talking, okay, well, let's deal with the police in Minneapolis. Well, listen to the fucking black people that are fighting against their police in Minneapolis. Okay, that's one thing, right? But if we're talking about Africa, we're talking about China, we're talking about Vietnam, Cuba, these other places, anything coming out of anywhere in the West, as admitted by William Casey, CIA director, we will know when the CIA's disinformation campaign is complete, when everything the American public believes in false. By extension, everything that everyone in the entire West and ultimately the world, that's what Voice of Iraq, Voice of Asia, all Radio Free Asia, when everything that everyone, because America is the world, according to the U.S. military as well, when everything that everyone on Earth believes is false, then we will know that the ruling class of the highest levels of capitalism are complete. So as long as you share anything and listen, and it's not to say that the people that have listened to Democracy Now! For the last 10 years are evil or bad, but what is in their brain and what they're going to be echo chambering to you, manufacturing consent for the Iraq 2.0, that is the war on China, which was the Gulf War 2.0, where you keep getting lied again and again and again and again and again and again and again. First the Gulf War with the incubator babies, the Iraq War with my little weapons of mass destruction and my uranium that was laundry detergent, and then my Syrian chemical weapons, that's a bunch of pool cleaner and Maui onions rubbed into the eyes of fucking false flaggers in Syria to continue that perpetual genocide and death and war for international imperialism, capitalism. If you are listening and regurgitating, and even listening to other people who are repeating this Western matrix of lies, interlocking, that goes beyond just the news. It goes into the movies. That's why I talked about Captain Falcon and Winter Soldier, which that is just a giant imperial propaganda. You are doing the empire's bidding. You're doing capitalism's bidding. You're actually hurting yourself, ultimately. Now, if you lived in Sockdem, Germany, maybe the imperialism will take your pencil factory worker job from 25 to 35. But in America, you're not going to get the German pencil factory worker job. I'm sorry, Biden is over there going to, no, we're going to do whatever Amazon and Walmart and Bill Gates and Lockheed want. And that's not raise your wages. I'm sorry. You're not going to get your Sockdem mask on white solidarity fascist cut. It's not, it's really America. It's even even if you're white in America, it's more in your interest to get your head out of your ass and figure out the Chinese can help you, really. At the end of the day, you're not going to have any information broadcasting anywhere because you all be banned off the internet soon. Hopefully, maybe not, right? Depends. But there's a version of 2023 where there is no left, there's no socialism anywhere on the internet. You can't even say it. The thing is, they don't have to ban it because there's not enough actual power moving. When the left has enough power that there's a solid, actually international anti-imperialist radical left, then they'll just ban everyone like what they did to Trump. But they're not even doing that. If you can still say socialism into Twitter, YouTube, Discord, Twitch, Signal, which is only co-opted by the U.S. Oligarchy. It's a joke. There is no. If you're on the internet in the West, you're already in the hands of the corporate world. You're already being spied on. There's no phone, computer, or Linux machine you can type into that isn't surveilled. You're going through an ISP. Your phone, you have to have a phone number to have a internet connection. There is no massive open source internet connection that doesn't work with the U.S. military in the U.S. You're already surveilled. So when they ban the word socialism and anarchism off the internet, like in Neofeud 2, then you'll know that you've actually gotten somewhere, but you haven't gotten there yet. That's why they haven't done it. You know, when they actually send the SWAT teams to every anarchist door, they haven't done that yet. Now they are criminalized. They're getting ready, but they're not. America is not literally mass imprisoning and arresting and killing its own anarchist and socialist children. But it's preparing for that. Falcon and the Winter Soldier were the flag smashers, who are international anarchists. They don't like borders and they don't like states. When the flag smashers is about conditioning and manufacturing the consent of the American public for the war against its own internal left, whatever remains of it, that is coming. You're not there yet, you know? So while you're not there yet, you should really, it's going to take the assistance of all these other parts of the world, particularly China, if you even want to attempt to fight the United States. People talk about, oh yeah, we're going to smash this state. What are you going to smash? They're going to smash you. They have every single person you ever said the word left. You ever did like a stream where you read some Kropotkin or Marx? You ever had an avatar that had a hammer and sickle? They have everything you ever said, done, and listened to for the last 10 years, including what color of underwear you were wearing in 2012 on Tumblr. They have it all in a Utah server a mile under the fucking ground. Well, I shouldn't say where it is. Some of it's in Hawaii. I'm so sorry. What color of underwear you were wearing, and your Pikachu, the Pikachu on your pinky nail, the Bulbasaur on your ring, and the Charizard on your middle finger, and your thumb that had a Mewtwo on it. They have that picture from Tumblr in a server somewhere in Hawaii. I'm sorry that we're keeping your dirty laundry there. When the time comes, they have a much more advanced version of what Nazi Germany had to eradicate the entire left. You better hope that you have not pissed off China and Vietnam and all these other parts that will need you will need their help. You know, the rest of the global South. Because if you intend to do what you say you want to do, America is going to eat you. And as long as you allow yourself to continue to be cannibalized, let more wildfires happen, let more ice destroy your Texas grids. Just keep, peeing in your bottles in Amazon. If you let America, just let it happen. Let America rape you. If you let it happen, then you won't be cracked down. But if you actually want to materially fight for your survival, that's the end for you. I mean, just as another example, America has no power internally to fight what it says it wants. You want to fight the most powerful military and police, militarized police. The military and the U.S. military and police are almost one and the same nowadays. They're all militarized police. You really want to fight it? You don't have America doesn't have the power to fight it. You're too sick. You're too dead. You're too surveilled. You don't have an open source. You don't have a dual power. People talk about dual power structure. There is no dual power structure yet. There's little bits of inklings of it. But you want to take on the planetary primary contradiction. It's like fighting the Death Star with fucking potato guns. You're gonna need a life star, and it, part of that is internal, but to my mind, unless 80% of America, including people at the highest levels of power who still have huge amounts of six-figure salaries to surveil you and put out robot police and have artificial intelligence automate drone bomb all of your leftist communities. You really want to fight with the U.S. military. They don't need human soldiers to kill you. That's the point of Terminus Machina and Terminus Cyberstar and Neofeud 2 and the Ryan Gosling Pikachu song. They don't need soldiers to kill you. One AI programmer can run a fleet of automated drones, humanoid. They're only rolling back the dogs because it's too disturbing right now, and they don't want to freak you out. They already have automated drones that can run very quickly and shoot at, like I said, they can run 35 miles per hour, and they can fire with the accuracy much more accurate than any leftist. I don't care how many Ho Chi Minh videos you watched. They can shoot in 100 feet away into like within a millimeter circle and hit the bullseye You know, like RoboCop. Imagine 10 million RoboCops that are not human, and they're not working for you. You have a trouble with 850,000 cops? No. You cannot fight the U.S. military and the police forces, not in the way that a lot of leftists think that they can and will. That would be illegal, and I guess this is all speculation in a video game, and that's not something that you would want to do. But if there is a path forward, it will require the Western people in the left, in the West, working with the rest of the world, who do have the power. You know, they have military power. Now, we don't want a military confrontation, but as a deterrent, they do have it. They do have, but more importantly, they have economic power. They have strategic economic alliances. To make the robot dogs that the police will use will require Chinese semiconductors. Taiwan is having a drought. They're falling behind in their semiconductor production. Japan had huge fires because they can't get their production up to the rate that the Chinese can. To produce the robotic police that would mass arrest you will require the Chinese chips, 7nm chips, semiconductors, actuators, plastic, metal, and other silicon parts. It's really in your interest to pull your head out of your ass, because that country that, at least, you know, is not perfect, but could really assist you in debilitating the U.S. corporations that run the military and the police. Again, so when China actually sanctioned Lockheed Martin, it actually really it created a big problem for them, because the parts for the Tomahawk missiles, the guidance systems and the other parts that go into Tomahawk missiles, they needed Chinese plants to get them even made. Because America, this is why I'm totally fine with America debilitating, and I hope Biden doesn't build back better. Just let China take all of your manufacturing, because then when it comes time to make the robotic police to kill every leftist in black and brown, and just eradicate all of Black Lives Matter with the guns like they do again, you're not even close to the way that America's full force. You know what America's full force is? Look at Bolivia. No, that's not even close. You got to go to Iraq. They're playing patty cake with the American left. It just, you know why? Because it would just be embarrassing. But why is it embarrassing? Because China is pointing at them and going, you see America? Look at how you treat your minorities. If China wasn't there to threaten America and going like, well, we make all your shit, and the international community, you're gonna look really terrible, and this will destabilize your spiritual vitality, your economic vitality, your moral high ground that you pretend to have. But we're challenging that. We're saying like, no, you don't have the moral high ground, right? If it wasn't, America didn't give a fuck about black people in the civil rights movement, it was because America was in a competition with Russia, and Russia was going, you don't care about your minorities, JFK. It's not because liberals give a fuck about black people. Are you kidding me? They kill more black people than Republicans, as I've already elucidated. It was actually to fight. It was a war of maintaining the greater society. It was a war of maintaining the better solution to societal, cultural, and civilizational problems of communism versus capitalism. I mean, obviously the Soviet Union had its own internal problems that were not as, they didn't do everything that they said. They're not a perfect society also. But America was worried that this is why Ayn Rand wrote the entire Hollywood Motion Pictures of Association Preservation of American Values playbook, which they have followed. Glorify individuals like billionaire philanthropist Armstrong, the Playboy man. Glorify patriotism and American exceptionalism. Never allow collectives or groups to be lauded and celebrated. That's what, and Ayn Rand says, that's what created the Soviet Union. By promoting unions. And anyway, so these were ideological, but this is, if there was no rival power there, America would not have even got close to even pretending to reduce its abuse of black people. And once it could figure out how to get away with abusing its black people, and it continues to impoverish its black people and its people of color. It's only really the fact that China is there. Like, if America was like, well, there's no real rival, who's gonna call us out when we murder all of our leftists? Europe? No, they're a bunch of fascists. Oh, I guess we'll just murder all of our leftists, our anarchists and socialists, and all of their Black Lives Matter. We'll just like throw them all in prison. The only thing stopping Biden and everyone else, in a certain sense, is how bad it's gonna look because they're having a harder time keeping up their image, and they need all of their police guns and their military Tomahawk guidance systems and their robot dogs and their robot atlases to be made in China. So pray to whatever god or Mox or Kropotkin that you worship that China continues to remain ahead in terms of actual production, you know, because if America does eliminate or for some reason causes with South China Sea threatening nuclear war and then blockading the strait that goes right past Singapore, and the Belt and Road Initiative fails, the entire left is annihilated in the United States. Because what use do they have pretending to care about civil rights anymore? Pretending to care about freedom of no. We'll just be we Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and all of our friends, we'll just lift off into fucking space and we'll just nuke this whole fucking planet from orbit. They can't do that because the spaceships, China just launched their first space station. They're like, you're not gonna let us into the International Space Station, we'll make our own goddamn space station. China is what's stopping Elon Musk from fully just leaving, partially. He's like, Elon can't get his Tesla cars made. They're selling more electric cars. Half of all electric vehicles in the world are being sold in China. You care about climate change? Xinjiang produces 50% of the necessary materials to make photovoltaic solar panels. 50% of all of the world's solar electricity relies just on Xinjiang. You should really, if you are, even you pretend to be an Extinction Rebellion, I care about climate change, so-called scientist. Apparently, there's no science or education in British universities either, because all the British, even Extinction Rebellion elite, retweeting Xinjiang Uyghur genocide. So apparently, there's no education in Britain either. But Oxbridge, if you want to pretend to care about the climate, if you want to if you actually care about these things, it behooves you to listen to actual Uyghurs, actual people in Xinjiang, actual Chinese people in China. If you like leftists, you know, I gave you a list and you have no excuse. I can't find any Chinese people to listen to. No, you are just erasing the Chinese people that I've already told you many times. Child Collective, Radio Free Amanda, etc. Danny Haifong, he's not even in China, but he's Asian and is anti-imperialist, anti-war. Black Alliance for Peace, Black Agenda Report, No Cold War. A lot of people within that circle. If you continue to refuse to listen to them, you are actually increasing climate destruction, because Xinjiang, if you sanction Xinjiang, you are increasing the crushing of any movement towards climate change. You are working with the fossil fuel companies. If you're a leftist, eco-socialist, or I care about the climate, if you're extinct, whatever you are, you care about the climate, and you are backing this sanction of Xinjiang, you are backing the crushing of the planet's ecology. You are a hypocrite. You a liar. So you're a ecocide. You're a hypocritical genocide doer, and you're a hypocritical climate ecocider. Both of those things at the same time. It's really amazing. The Xinjiang region is so important. That's why America has forward bases that Biden is pretending to withdraw while leaving shadow ops, intelligence, and other security forces and subcontractors in Afghanistan. America is never leaving Afghanistan. You know why? Because the border of Xinjiang and Afghanistan goes right through, the Belt and Road Initiative goes right through that area, which was the initial Silk Road. They have beautiful art in Uyghurs language, unlike in Hawaii, where it's all in Hawaiian, it's all in American and Japanese. They have beautiful art of camels and the silk, and people in their Muslim, in their Uyghur, in their Kashgar, in their Kyrgyz ethnic dress, and their art, with their language, with their ethnic food. A lot of it's tandoori, like tandoori with extra meat, because they were in a desert where they had a lot of goats historically. There's a lot of milk, there's a lot of goat. They have like this milk bubble soup tea, which is very cool. And I want to go to Xinjiang just to try some of this stuff. And that was historically the root of trade for the huge continent that for the majority of human history has been the biggest economy and has been the center of much of what the world does. The most people are there. It only makes sense. So if the world was a democracy, it would be only fair, because that's a 1.4 billion. There's over a billion in India. You add up Russia, Iran, Turkey, all those countries up there that no American really knows about. All they know is they got some Taliban. I'm gonna blow them up. You know, Never mind the fact that America worked to manufacture the extremism there and continues to work to manufacture extremism in that eastern Afghanistan, right on the border. And Xinjiang is so important because that is where the road, if America tries to cut off, and America is trying to cut off China's entire economy, 50% of global trade goes right through that strait, right by Singapore. If America were to cut off with its South China Sea militarization, its weaponization, all of its military activities and blockades and alliances to try to enclose China with India, Japan, all these other, Australia with his little sheriff down there, little puppet Australia taking hundreds of millions of dollars of American sweet military money to be racist and make up lies for ASPI, Australia Strategic Policy Institute, to manufacture all this Xinjiang Uyghur shit, while Australian soldiers are slitting the throats of children, Uyghur children in Afghanistan, because they're on both sides. If America and its allies cut off Chinese trade, that would horribly destroy and debilitate the Chinese economy. And that's part of why the Belt and Road Initiative it needs to happen. And if China is debilitated, what is that? That cuts off just on COVID. Hey, how many South and Central American, African, Indian, and other global South countries are getting American vaccines, huh? I'll give you a hint. It's basically zero. And until China made America look bad by getting Mexico 30 million, 40 million, like 60 million vaccines. They're in the purchase of purchasing 60 million vaccines to Mexico, when America was saying, nothing. We need to make all the money that we can. And China also said, hey, Mexicans, hey, Brazilians, hey, Indians, if you guys want to have the patent, you want to make your own generic version of the Sinovac or the I forgot the other one, the CanSino vaccine. We, China, Russia, and other global South countries, we are willing to waive it. And India, you can make whatever you want to make. You can make our vaccine. Who is stopping the world from being slaughtered? Who is stopping the world from preventing the slaughter of millions of people for the profit of Bill Gates and other billionaires? Who was doing that, huh? The United States, Europe, UK, and all the Western world. You are the primary contradiction. If China were to be barricaded just on COVID alone, that would cause the suffering and deaths of millions of those people. And Russia is also, that's why they're trying to stop Russia at Ukraine. Russia also, 100 million vaccines to India. What did America do for India? Biden literally signed into law that no material for vaccine making shall be allowed into India. America first. Only as it became so shameful, right? And who was shaming America? Not America. It was actually a lot of the global South news that were like, it was Indians and also the Chinese and the Russian and other media, not the Western media. Only when it got so loud around the world, they're like, hey, America, why are you denying India access to vaccines as they're having 4,000 deaths a day? Their people are burning alive. They're running out of wood to cremate the number of people that are dying. They're chopping down trees in Delhi Central Park because they don't have any more trees to burn all the dead bodies. This is disgusting. Biden, again, if it wasn't for China and Russia and the global South, the empowered parts putting out these stories about America's terrible treatment and making America look, it's vaccine diplomacy. Well, you're doing vaccine genocide, West. If it wasn't for China doing right by the global South, America, Europe, and all of its Western allies would never have been shamed into giving Mexico 1 million doses. They would never have been shamed even into giving India just the access to the chemicals to make the vaccines. It's not because Joe Biden or even the Western left have the capacity to move their governments to give a shit about India. No, it's because the Chinese and the Russians shamed the West into doing just a little bit, which they're not even gonna probably do. It's all for show. Just like I'm gonna leave Afghanistan. They didn't leave nothing. Ask Colonel Workers. Ask somebody. I know you don't have any friends in the CIA, but there's important articles being written right now that obviously the Gray Zone, Black Alliance for Peace, Vijay Prashad, people actually in the military, which if you can get access to somebody at a very high level in the U.S. military, ask them what America's gonna do. They're not, like I said, I had some friends in the high levels in the U.S. naval intelligence, let's put it that way. They never talk because they know that everything that Americans and the West believes is false. And they never talk about current events. They play World of Warcraft and hang out with their anime girlfriend, right? Their weeb girlfriend, and they only talk about World of Warcraft with each other. Hey, oh yeah, I just put in a NVIDIA, 10,000, exabyte graphics card so I can play World of Warcraft better. But they don't talk about anything. You know why? Because they know that everything that you believe is false, or almost everything. If everything you believe is false, then the CIA would have. When Americans believe that 2 + 2 = 6, every single one of them, then the CIA's propaganda machine is finished. So it will, by extension, you will forever be propagandized by your Western media, your movies, your universities, your schools, public, private, and charter, your European universities, your news agencies, your think tanks, your governments, your businesses, your Coca-Cola, doing ads where we're shoring up our fucking hashtag racial healing. You will forever be disinformed. And so I did not talk at all about what I said I was going to talk about. I'm so sorry. But that is important. I said I was talking about patriarchy stuff, but anyway, that's not what it was. But whatever good America is doing for India, it's not because America would do that. Whatever even token amounts America is doing to shore up its infrastructure, if it wasn't for China there to embarrass America, if it wasn't for China and other countries like that to go like in the way that Russia was a countervailing force, right? Not to say that they're not the savior of the goddamn world. They're just a important force in the world with the people. Also, when you go the Chinese this, the Chinese that, you are being racist against the Chinese in that moment. The Chinese don't all agree on everything. They're not a monolith. Now the majority of them, Uyghur, Hui, Kazakh, Kyrgyz, the majority of them approve of what the Chinese government has done and their job that they've done. Because why? Because they've improved their material conditions. I mean, do you believe Marx, or are you a hypocrite? If an entity approves the material conditions of a people, people will approve of that entity, and it's legitimate, at least for them. Now, internationally, that's another thing. But you are a racist. You are a xenophobe. You're full of yellow peril that you don't even realize when you go, well, I support the Chinese people, but I don't support the Chinese government. You are a hypocrite. You are erasing the actual Chinese voice. You are speaking. You are voice of Asia. You're the white leftist voice of Asia. You're going, I am the Chinese people and I'm gonna overthrow the Chinese government. No, you're just a fucking white anarchist. Or pretending to be one, because if you actually read, you understood all this. You are a white pretending to be leftist. I know what the Chinese. You don't know what the fucking Chinese people want. Have you talked to them? Have you actually listened to them, or do you just pick up their struggle when it makes you feel good and you can play white savior? Have you listened to what I'm saying about Hawaii, or do you just pick up my tweets when you want to feel like you're a fucking savior, white savior for the Native Hawaiians? Are you listening to what the fuck I'm saying? Or do you just hear what you want to hear, which is that the Western left or progressives or liberals will save Hawaiians and Silver Spook doesn't know what he's talking about? Then you are not listening to what I'm fucking saying. I know there are people that get what I'm saying, but I know that there are other people that don't. And they will listen to the stream and they'll be like, oh yeah, it's so sad about the Hawaiians, and I'm gonna lobby my senator, or if you're a liberal, or I'm gonna for racial healing for Hawaii, and or I'm gonna donate to Hawaii. Oh, I'm gonna pray for the overthrow of the Hawaiian government. If you pray, the Hawaiians had a government. That's what I would like to hear. Well, what did Hawaiians think about the Hawaiian government? Which wasn't perfect either. But it's kind of like, I'm just gonna pray for the overthrow of the Hawaiian government. Well, you got your wish. The Americans came in and illegally annexed the Hawaii. Now it's a legal occupation, but it's an ongoing illegal occupation. You got your wish. Are you listening to the people that you purport to care about in the global south, in Asia, in the Pacific, indigenous people, in these other places? Because if the people say something that you don't want to hear, right? If the people are saying something you don't want to hear and you just disregard what they're saying and you just say, no. I just have to keep fucking sharing Adrian's ends. I just have to keep calling them all tankies. I just have to keep with all of this bullshit. You are not listening. You are a Western imperialist exceptionist in leftist aesthetics. A space, E space, S space, T, H, I, C. You don't have international solidarity. You're treating us as one group of sad brown and black morass, Asian and Pacific Islanders all together, which is one big lump that you can put in a rubric in your Excel spreadsheet in your white fragility. I care about those people. We had a little fundraiser and we donated, $100 for everybody's little. We had a little corporate. We were gathering around the Excel spreadsheet with our social distance, with a little plexiglass, making 6 figures, and we all donated $10. We had a little kitty. We sent out $100 off to buy a few Hawaiian kids like 2 Whopper meals. And they were very racially healed, Asian and Pacific Islander month Whoppers. So we care about them now. And for the left, it's just like, oh well, I support the destruction of all governments, and that helps the Hawaiians because the Hawaiians needed their government destroyed in the 1800s. Like, no. Oh, I support the Native Hawaiians because obviously we could use the platforming, but also, if an indigenous or these other global south people are saying something and it's not really what you want to hear, you don't have to agree. You don't have to be like, oh, everything that they're saying is absolutely true because you said it. That could be a problem, especially when you have apples and sellouts in our own, which we do have. But if what we're saying is, hey, our government is not perfect, but our government is not your government, and we don't actually want it overthrown. If it becomes so problematic that if the Chinese government approval rating falls to the American approval rating of like 20%, maybe they're illegitimate. And that will be valid. Like, hey, what the fuck? If China starts fucking 37 million Muslim displacing wars, if the Chinese government has military bases in 800 countries, in virtually every country on earth, and is provably, incontrovertibly showing itself to be warmongering and like offering Bolivia 93% and taking 97% like Europe does. If China is showing to be doing the debt trap, a fun thing, the word debt trap was actually a meme created by someone in not even in the US, and it was that idea was picked up by the intelligence community, the left and liberals in the US and in Europe. It was picked up. It was a joke. There was no Chinese debt trap. The word that Chinese debt trap was actually some meme that somebody created in some internet forum, but that not even was in the US. And American liberals, news, university system, economics and politics, professors and specialists picked up on the debt trap idea, especially at Harvard. And then let's run with that. Foreign policy picked it up. Washington Post picked it up. Oh, Chinese, and they constructed a fictional story about the Chinese debt trap. Again, but it was a joke. Just the Xinjiang story. This is some fucking Nazi making some shit up. And then America and Europe, let's run with that. Sounds good, Adrian. Nazi Zens. I want to melt all the Jews down in a fire. I think women and homosexuals are subhuman. I believe in biblical fucking spanking. And I got my research degree from a Cracker Jack box. And I think that I literally publicized in my own... The sad thing is, if you are a supposedly educated person, did you take any kind of math, like even in 4th grade? My daughter has to take bar graphs and stuff. Adrian Zenz has graphs showing that the Chinese were doing like 6 IUD insertions per person per day. He has graphs that actually they actually say that in the graph. So where do the Uyghurs find time? Where do the Chinese find time to do all the forced labor if they're spending all day long? Every woman is getting 6 IUDs per day. Even by basic math and science, this guy is just a total clown, right? Yet here is the Western left academics, liberal academics, progressive academics, and other political organizations blasting this guy's articles everywhere, right? That's racism. That is your imperial propaganda working very well against everyone and against you and against the rest of the world. That is Western exceptionalism. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we gotta get going. Anyway, you know what? I'm so sorry I didn't talk about the other thing I wanted to talk about. So, important. Number one, very important is Asian and Pacific Islanders are not one group. B, Asians, Pacific Islanders, Native Hawaiians. We are humans. We're people. We have our own struggles that are different. And the struggle of Chinese in China is different from the struggle of Chinese diaspora and Chinese in the United States. If you really care, don't just put a goddamn hashtag, I care about Asian American Pacific Islanders. If you pretend to be if you are what you claim to be as an actual leftist in global solidarity, and you cared about the actual Chinese people, listen to some actual Chinese leftists, go through that goddamn Yellow Peril Red Scare stream, listen to it, shut your white mouth that's full of Adrian Zen's bullshit. Shut your white mouth and your white brain that's full of Western propaganda. Listen to what the Asian leftists in and outside of China, Vietnamese Americans, Chinese in America, Chinese in China. Listen to the actual Chinese people. And even Daniel Dumber will say, I don't believe all Chinese television. I mean, of course, I don't believe everything that comes off of that. I'm like, of course, they're not going to put a bad thing about their own party, and you shouldn't. But, I don't trust everything that comes out of RT, particularly when they're talking about Russia, right? Is there some journalism that's sponsored that is like actually I'm learning some things that I didn't learn in other places? Like before the financial crisis happened, like that it was going to happen? Like all the wars that America doesn't cover? Yeah. I'm not going to tell you everything that happens in Hawaii, partially because I don't want internal Hawaiian struggles to be weaponized against us, because that's what the Western imperial white world will do. It will take, things that are happening and go, you see, Hawaiians are just as bad as white people. You see, Americans deserve Hawaii. Because Hawaiians are a bunch of, they're a bunch of primitive savages, and they all have, I don't want my tax-paying daughters to go for the crack babies. See, Silver Spook said one time a Hawaiian, stole something from another Hawaiian. They all hated, it's all Hawaiian on Hawaiian crime. And I don't talk about some of those things to you right now. Now, internally, talk about it more. To other people from Hawaii, I talk about that more. Because I know that we're not going to go weaponize our internal discussions against our entire movement for our personal benefit. Now, that's a problem in the Western left. That's for damn sure. You know this. How many organizations have you tried to start? Communes, online Discord communities, leftist organizations, where somebody else's dirty laundry for clout, and like just causes problems solely for clout, solely to get profit. That's basically the entire online left. Most of the Western online left is just a giant fucking fake leftist clout game with like taking my Nazi swastika, replace that with an A with an O in it, and go, I'm a leftist now. And then debate bro all day long. That's sadly the biggest platforms in the Western online left. And actually, what the left in the West, sadly, that's what it is. So now the material reality for us as Native Hawaiians, as indigenous people, as global South people, we don't have the luck. It really, really matters a lot more for our continued existence and survival and our dignity to succeed as part of. And there are also aspects to Native Hawaiian culture. There are material aspects. We are 4 times more likely to be homeless. We're being kicked out of our land. We have been so brutalized and downtrodden for centuries by the United States and the West. So we have material reasons and solidarity on places like Mauna Kea. So we don't go and put each other on blast for personal clout and monetary individualist, capitalistic, social capitalistic gain. We're less likely to. But there's also indigenous culture that aloha, kuleana, pono. These it would not be pono to do that. To just try to get some selfish gain by outing. But anyway, so that's why and so you shouldn't like so and I will tell you there are problems within the Hawaiian community. I will say some of these, right? I'm not going to spend a lot of time going into it because of the reasons that I just said. But for the same reason, I don't listen to everything that comes out of every. You have to like take verbatim anybody that claims to be Chinese and go, okay, whatever that person said, that is the descended from God or Karl Marx or Kropotkin, straight from the word of his bearded holiness is truth. No, I mean, like, if you did that, there's lots of white people with Asian Chinese character avatars and literal yellow face over a white person's avatar. That's how a lot of the Hong Kong was like white liberals with fake Asian names. Like I'm, like Kim Jong or I'm, I'm like Tim Lee in Hong Kong, and I support the Chinese CPC is illegitimate. They're committing genocide in Xinjiang, and they're just oppressing the crap out of us. But it was a white liberal in America, or a Gusano Chinese, Kampuchea Chinese in Vancouver, in Hong Kong, going like, fuck this. They took my money. I'm working with Epoch Times and other. If you are a Latin American, you are a Latinx left. The Cuban, the ones that ran away because they lost their servants, their riches, their mansions, right? And they're like, they're like Ted Cruz's family, like Marco Rubio, right? So for that reason, it doesn't mean that you listen and you're like, okay, instantly I believe everything that you said, right? But you do have to listen, do some research. Don't research it on Reuters. Don't research it on Associated Press. Don't research it on any. I know it's hard because almost every English-speaking news, academic, and any information, any book, even in English, 9 times out of 10 is going to be disinformation. I know it's very difficult. You have to, but because most Chinese, they don't fluently speak English. They don't write in English. That's why Chow Collective is very important. Most Vietnamese, they don't interact mostly with English. They don't want to. They're like, you guys are all assholes. Right? Like Luna says, you guys are all fucking assholes. You lie about us all the time. Luna Oy of Non-Compete, right? You know Luna. I hope. If you don't, you need to fucking know who Luna is. Luna is like one of 100 million Vietnamese that's like, I'm willing to engage with Westerners in English. Luna is, if anybody is doing God's work, it's fucking Luna. Right? Because how much are people learning about Vietnam? How many Western leftists, and even like Global South leftists, even in Brazil, I see lots of Brazilians, Latin Americans, people's in India, like, oh my God, Luna, this is so important what we're learning about Vietnam. I didn't know all this stuff. And like what the US is doing and how we can fight it. And the lesson that Vietnam is. I didn't know this stuff until Luna, right? But Luna is like, I don't want to speak in English because when I speak in English, who's responding to me? Almost all Western, left, right, and center, but chauvinist, racist, left, right, leftists, right for sure, a lot of center, liberal, and then also leftists, racist, imperialists, their brains full of lies, calling me names, not listening to me because I'm an Asian and I'm a woman, and in a patriarchal racist culture that does, American Johnson, Luna's own white American partner, has said, I did not listen to women, white women. I didn't listen to any women when they opened their mouth. I only listened to other white men, maybe. And I didn't listen to people of color. And I would talk over them. So the fact that Luna is willing to get on fucking Twitter, get on the internet, and get on the global discussion and talk about Vietnam, while people have been just like blasting her all day. I mean, like that is the Lord's work, whichever one you want. Kropotkin, Ho Chi Minh is more based on all these fucking Western clowns, but Luna is doing Ho Chi Minh's work. You know what I'm saying? Uncle Ho's work. So Luna, but it's hard to find that. Why? Because most of the English-speaking world is fucking brain poison. I said, like, English itself is deeply imperial. It's deeply unequal. It's deeply hierarchical. It's deeply racist. Like every language doesn't have countless slurs, ableist, sexist, misogynist, anti-black, anti-Latinx, anti-Asian slurs, anti-LGBTQ slurs, anti-trans slurs. Not every language is filled to the brim with these. I know it's a weird thing to think about, but imperial languages like German as well, English, they're filled to the brim with these words that have baked in meaning. That's just one very shallow example of the built-in racism and the word property, the word title, the word land itself. Each one of these words, the word realm, realty comes from the word realm, dominion, right? Now they rename them into commonwealths, but no, It's about domination. Property is that which is bought and sold, which comes from feudalism. That which is owned and given by birthright. Capitalism, the word title, property, these all came from feudalism. And capitalism and feudalism, when I say capitalism is feudalism with $ characteristics, it's literally just, instead of King George giving the Duchess or the Duke of Earl or the Marquess of this island, the Earl of Sandwich, right, as it was called, Sandwich Islands, which are Hawaii, but anyway, instead of the king gifting these with a signature and the correct ounces of blood and be defended by barbarism and dudes with swords chopping people's heads off, the title, property, exchange, realm, realty, dominion, all of this terminology just evolved into capitalism. Oh, I'm gonna buy and sell it, right? So what capitalism just allows upstart white little lords to buy their way into feudalism. Ultimately, if you can look at it, that's what it is, right? Jeff Bezos, that's why Elon Musk, when he calls himself techno king, I love it, because Elon Musk admits what every American white man actually is, a wannabe King George. Like, God damn it, I wish I was born higher. I know, I'll just oppress my wife and my children and then get a bunch of black serfs. My wife is my first serf under patriarchy. Cooking and cleaning comes with the land. And then my children. I have 20 children. I'll be a Mormon quiverful. You know, I'll make lots of children, and then as soon as I can get my hands on some black slaves or maybe some Hispanic migrants or some other oppressed people, I don't have any serfs to oppress. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get a bunch of black serfs, and then I can buy my way into titleship. And so Elon Musk admits when he comes on and goes, you know, I'm the techno king, and the CFO of Tesla is the master of coin. Because what I really always wanted is to be the white man king. I wanted to be the feudal king, under shadow pretense of human rights, democracy, so that because the heads are rolling. Oh no, we're all equal now, except we're not. Aristocrat, cis, white, landed, straight men. In the beginning, it was actually you have to actually be in the upper crust already. You have to have some title, but then with capitalism, you can buy some more titles, right? See, that's one thing. That's why the feudal lords didn't like the capital, because like, we don't like this buying your way in a title, because then any little clown, any little fucking little merchant, filthy little merchant can buy their way into titles. No, we can't allow that, and they will come and crush the upstart capitalism, right? But the capitalism is like it just allows the buying and selling of title, the title to your car, the title to your property, the title to this asset, corporation, these slaves. Slaves came with a certificate, just like the feudal certificate, right? But the serf, the lord of a manor, right? You and this lord has X hundreds of serfs and X tens of thousands or 100,000s under these lands, which are entitled to him, these huge tracts of land, right? But you can't buy and sell the serfs, right? But for black people, it's just, in America, you can go, well, guess what? We can buy and sell serfs, and they come with a little certificate, the certificate of title. John Smith, or Thomas Jefferson, is hereby awarded for the price of $25 one African slave. It's with a little title. The word title, the word serf, all of law. There's no law in the West. It's a joke. It's all barbarism. It's all racism, patriarchy, hell, and exploitation. It's a hellscape. It's cyberpunk hellscape now. It was ray gun hellscape in the 50s. It was steampunk hellscape in the 1850s, and then it was medieval hellscape in feudalism, and then it was Roman imperial centurion hellscape under that empire way before that. But there's no law. It's just the law is just the law. It's like there's lots of little words written in feudalism. Like, exchange this title and that. And there's no law, because there's no justice in the West. I mean, if there was, there would be all the police would all not be police anymore, and they'd all be either dead or in prison, or we wouldn't have a carceral system, ideally, right? But the police, under its own system, would all be in prison. There's no such thing as just. Courts are rubber stamping every one of the 2.5 million black people in prison, disproportionately black and brown and Native Hawaiian in prison, were put there by a judge. The courts are illegitimate. The courts backed all of the wars of aggression, which are the highest violations of human rights. They're the highest crime against humanity, is wars of aggression. And the Supreme Court just has backed every single one of these. There is no court in the entire Western world for the last multi-thousand years that has ever been just. There's never been justice. Justice would be the end of the entire West. You know, if the US, if you live in 99% cancer, which is what if you grew up in America, you grew up in cancer. Justice would be the excising of the entire United States and all of Europe, ultimately, really. Definitely all of its economic, political systems and all of its entire structure. Canada would not exist anymore. There can never be justice in an empire of crime. There can only be hate crimes, which you can send crime-doing cops to fix. So, anyway, it's 1:54. It's almost 2. I gotta get off. I did not talk at all about patriarchy, but let me say that. Well, I did talk a little bit, and I'll continue this in this later stream a little for some, because I know I didn't talk about it. But this is a scene from Neofeud 2. Artists. Wait. Where the hell is the new one I just put out there? Handmaid's human rights violations and Hui. Well, I did talk about human rights violations in Xinjiang that don't exist. Human rights are defended in Xinjiang by the Chinese people and the Chinese government, which are one and the same. And the thing that, you know, and the abuses of women, to kind of tie that in, the abuses of women, which Adrian Zenz, who again, left, right, and center, everybody is backing still. Democracy Now! In the last month had him on. Democracy Now!, which is on the left end of the spectrum as far as news agencies in the West goes. It's not as left as many leftists, obviously, but they continue to parrot the lies of a neo-Nazi about Xinjiang. Handmaids, and who is behind fundamentalist anti-woman Christianity, Christianity and its patriarchy and Western imperialism and capitalism are all fundamentally intertwined. And this is another one of those things that just like, it fucking pisses me off to know, and the depths of the hypocrisy. Adrian Zenz, somebody who says that women and homosexuals, tolerance of women and homosexuals is a huge problem because it prevents, it is a destruction of Christianity and of the German people. And he says that he said, like, we need companies to be able to fire women and homosexuals without being accused of anything. Basically, women should go back into the kitchen. Women should be subservient. Women should not count as humans. That's Adrian Zenz's standing points. Just one of his, as a person, disgusting person. As an academic, a total fraud. And also disgusting. And works for the victims and anti-communist Victims of Communism Foundation, works for the CIA. At so many different levels is this guy a horrific figure. So, and much of these violations do come and stem from human anti-women and anti-feminism and misogyny and patriarchal structures. You know, and this is a scene from Neofeud 2, which is dystopian. Sentient machine, artisanal gestator. What does it say here? This character is a homeless polymimetic gynoid. Artisan gestator was my official title. They have standalone artificial wombs to grow heirs in your parlor. Before the neo-feudal elite, a handmaiden is a status symbol. Sadistic ass earthling. So this is a character from Neofeud 2. And part of it is recognizing the dystopia. But you know, and Handmaid's Tale, I know it just came out today. That's part of why I titled it Handmaid's Tale. I apologize, I didn't talk about Handmaid's Tale too much. I just got too far off on another topic. But these are all important topics. They do all tie together. The oppression of women, of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang, was backed by the United States. Let me get you the specific receipts on this one. Where the hell is that? I know I try to retweet it fairly often, but yeah. Anyway, visit a Kyrgyz village in Xinjiang. Just another ethnic minority in Xinjiang. There are many ethnic minorities in Xinjiang. There's Uyghurs, the Kyrgyz, Kazakh, the Hui people. It's like interesting. The word Hui means collective and cooperative in Hawaiian. It means the same thing in Chinese and in Vietnamese. I discovered from Luna Oi. But yeah, the U.S. is responsible. This is from I don't know if you can see this. U.S. is responsible. Fucking come on. U.S. is responsible for every attack in Xinjiang to destabilize the region and stop Chinese influence in Central Asia. Sybil Edmonds, FBI whistleblower. Okay? If you talk about China, if you talk about the Belt and Road Initiative and you leave that, if you talk about Uyghur genocide, you talk about anything China is doing, you talk about U.S. policy, and you talk about the Belt and Road Initiative, and you leave out the fact that the United States has been trying to disrupt really the Belt and Road and collaboration with all of China, the rest of Asia and Africa, and the rest of the global South. If you leave out the fact that the U.S. has planned, financed, and executed every single terror-related scheme and uprising in Xinjiang, transported to Afghanistan by the CIA for training in guerrilla warfare by the Mujahideen. They returned to Xinjiang. They formed the East Turkestan Islamic movement. The policy of guiding evolution of Islam and helping the Muslims against our adversaries, whether that was Al-Qaeda and the Mujahideen against Russia, and now radical extremists in Afghanistan against China, the U.S. has been behind this. The same doctrines can still be used to destabilize what remains of Russian power, and especially to counter the Chinese influence in Central Asia. If you leave out the context of America's attempt to ultimately push millions, if not billions of people back into poverty, to create war, sacrifice Muslim lives, radicalize and kill Muslims. They have also bombed Uyghurs. If you leave this context out when you talk about China, you shouldn't be talking about China if you're a white Western leftist or any kind of non-Chinese leftist. You should be having Chinese people in your stream or wherever. You should be citing Chinese leftists, Child Collective, all the way. If you are going to open your fucking face, you should be bringing up the fact that the United States has been behind the extremism, has caused the deaths of hundreds to thousands of terror attacks in Xinjiang. Why are they doing that? To crush and contain China. That the U.S. has been lying and is waging a fake human rights violation, genocide stories about China with its allies for the purpose of crushing China, because China stands as a force for liberation, for poverty alleviation across the planet. China is the biggest force, ultimately, imperfect as it is, for the liberation and the left and a left of the earth right now, and the United States is the primary imperialist, capitalist, white supremacist contradiction. If you leave that war, the ongoing imperialism, aggression, and attempt between the two of the world's largest powers, when you talk about Xinjiang, you are doing the bidding of the US empire. You are doing the bidding of capitalism, ultimately. You are doing the building of white supremacy. You are doing the bidding of imperialism. You are hurting me personally, because your bombers are increasing their presence on our mountain. This is toxifying our water. It's threatening our entire survivability. You're threatening my children personally. If you open your Western fucking mouth or type with your little Western little fingers or press your little phone button that shares an article, you are hurting me personally, because the militarism that the US is successfully manufacturing consent in the entire West for is coming to Hawaii first. Are they coming? Is the military showing up in New Jersey, where you're at, in Washington, in your nice little suburb in white flyover state, or in Canada? Where do you live? Is the military bombing you? No? Shut the fuck up. Shut your fucking face. Listen to the people that are actually being materially impacted by your propagation, intentionally or unconsciously, of Western imperial capitalist lies, and stop fucking doing it, please. Jesus Christ. Okay, anyways. Okay, that's a good place to end. But yeah, and we'll talk more about the patriarchy and how this all works together, but yeah, it's 2:03. Okay, we gotta get off. I'll put this off for later. And one thing you can do, you really want to support Native Hawaiian Pacific Islanders, you can check out Neofeud, which is an anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-racist, actual cyberpunk game that's about critiquing the primary contradictions. The military-industrial complex, the police-industrial complex, centers around the murder of an innocent, marginalized person by the police of the United States. and you get to be complicit as the player, and understand fully. It also centers a disabled person of color who is also a cyborg, because cyberpunk is fun. It's comedic and it's satirical. There are things like hippie Terminators, but it's also about my personal experiences, about other experiences of human trafficked Filipinos from the fascist colonial occupation there. It's about the ghettoization and obliteration of our entire culture. It's about a real genocide, not the fake one in Xinjiang that you are continuing to propagate. I mean, I hope you're not. It's about the genocide of Native Hawaiians, the deletion of our people and our culture and our language, which we're only starting to gain back now. It's about the ongoing murder of Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders by the police. It's about the mass incarceration of Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders by your police, your illegal occupation police. It's about the impoverishment of billionaires living on hills as we live in the low buried slums as the tour buses drive past, like held up signs of beautiful palm trees and happy Hawaiians so that you can't see how we're ghettoized. So Neofeud is about all those things. It's about disgusting, grotesque inequality, the hypocrisy, the lies, and a neo-feudal empire that is eating even its own people and its own children, the flag smashers, until there's nothing left of the earth, of anything but a rotten, toxic husk covered in fascist boots. But and just endless 99% of earth is just endless poverty and slum. So that is what Neofeud is about, and you can support us. You can support me personally and what we do here at the Silver Spook Cooperative by going to Steam, and you can pick it up there. It's not on sale right now, but it is a game that you can wishlist there. If you have any leftist gamer friends, unless they're fucking fake leftists, you can ask them, hey, you might want to wishlist this game. And if you have cyberpunk fans that are like, hey, where's the cyberpunk that actually like doesn't treat disabled people like a error, you know? Because transhumanism, as somebody pointed out, right, on Twitter, it was like, it does have kind of fundamentally kind of anti disabled people, and eugenicist tendencies, because it's about making people quote unquote better in the way it's depicted, cyberpunk. And Neofeud is about how the people, technology and artificial limbs and such actually can hurt people a lot more, and also the disabled people will become still disabled even with the artificial limbs that are sensitively to help them. And also, particularly under a capitalist, plutocratic, racialized capitalist system, the disabled people will actually be further disenfranchised by by this transhuman technology, and stigmatized for it, and also that the people, the full machines, would lack access to healthcare and mechanical care the same way that humans lack access to their biological healthcare. So anyways, so if that sounds interesting, you can also check out Neofeud. And if you are a Marxist-Leninist, Neofeud explored the depths that it makes up our capitalist reality, and I found the game to be a multidimensional representation of Marx's Das Kapital. It is received as a labor of love, one that speaks to the cultural references of our generation. Neofeud also has a strong female protagonist. Trademark. That doesn't make a thing leftist, by the way, or all good. But Holly does play Princess Sybil in that. Speaking of patriarchy, her character is not particularly revolutionary though, even though she talks about making her revolutions for fun. Anyways, but that is Neofeud. You can also find Neofeud on itch.io, which is you can get it for Mac and Linux, as well as for Steam. You can get it digital rights management. If you don't like DRM, you don't like Steam, you can get it on itch for Windows, Mac, and Linux. And you can also support us on Patreon at patreon.com/Neofeud. Patreon.com/Neofeud, where you can back us in an ongoing contributions. You can also, if you become a Patreon patron, you get access to the Silver Spook Discord server, where you can hang out with some friends of Silver Spook Games, talk more real shit. If you are somebody who is an indigenous person, or black or non-white or global South. Somebody said like Silver Spoon Games. I like coming to Silver Spoon Games because it's a space where I can talk about my struggles and I can say things that I can't really say about around some white and even some of my white comrades in some other leftist spaces. And so, you know, we're not. It's not. I don't have a problem with. Obviously, you know, it's not a problem with your skin color, you know, or white spaces. But the Silver Spoon Discord as well, and hopefully the Silver Spoon spaces are spaces where those people that are most marginalized feel like that they can speak their mind and feel heard and feel not talked over or denied. You know, if there's anything, I do hope that is something that people gain from the streams and the other spaces, because if not, then I'm not doing my job. You know, because I say, you know, to be revolutionary, we have to be, as Ivan says, to be a revolutionary, we have to be anti-imperialist. To be revolutionary, we have to be in solidarity with the most oppressed across the globe. And solidarity doesn't mean, hey, solidarity, comrade, I support your overthrowing of your government. Solidarity means listening to the people and also actually giving a shit and asking them what they need, not what you think they need. And you know, I know it's hard because you speak English, but you know, so, and also if you want to listen to some voices that are not only in the US, there's a lot of voices on Mastodon, which is a decentralized, non-capitalist controlled, federated version of Twitter that doesn't have a billionaire mega corporation, Jack Dorsey, manipulating the timeline for Wall Street and the military industrial complex that have both given him billions. Twitter has literally taken billions from the US military to rig the timeline to promote war propaganda, back fossil fuel pipelines being driven through indigenous people's land, delete 3,000 people's accounts for saying Breonna Taylor's name, and all this other kind of bullshit. So the capacity to do that on a platform like Mastodon is much more limited. I've never been shadow banned or had my account like limited or et cetera, for some bogus reason, like on Twitter or on other platforms. So I recommend getting a particularly if you are some kind of activist of any type, I recommend at least as a backup getting a Mastodon account. However, the reach of Mastodon is not as big as Twitter. So while it's not, you can support us. Oh, do watch this fucking thing, okay? Myth: China is colonizing Africa with Michaela Nhondo, who is a South African person and a leftist. So again, you're a leftist. You want to talk about Africa? Listen to a leftist person in Africa speak about China. Okay? Don't retweet neoliberal media about China in Africa, because that they're going hard. Okay? Follow this person. I should follow this person. I should also follow this person. Okay? Black Power Media is a black radical independent media project, and it's a black leftist in the United States and a black leftist in Africa talking about how the colonization of China is a myth. They're not saying that China has no problems, but the colonizing is a myth, and they have been a hugely beneficial force, particularly relative to the US, the West, and Europe. Okay? So fucking watch this. That's your homework. Also, but anyway, so you can follow @SilverSpookGuy. You can follow @SilverSpookGuy, and it's my personal account where I tweet about things related to Hawaii. I tweet about I fucking call out the president of this bullshit empire for his bullshit about Asian Americans and Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders. Oh my god. Anyways, so you can follow @SilverSpookGuy for that kind of political and personal stuff, and not that the games aren't political as well, but I don't front load it necessarily into the game because I want some people to play the game and then maybe learn something through that. But in the Silver Spoon Guy, I just didn't tell you what's up. But Silver Spoon Games is more specifically about Neofeud 2, Neofeud 1, other cyberpunk, anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist games, like radically punk cyberpunk games, as well as Terminus Cyberstar, which is also a political game, the sequel to Terminus Machina. And you can follow Terminus Cyberstar @TerminusC. Terminus C is a low-poly cyberpunk. Terminus Cyberstar is a low-poly cyberpunk immersive sim in the vein of late 90s PC games such as Deus Ex 1 and System Shock 2. Terminus Cyberstar is a game that is, I'm the content director of it. It is coming out sometime. It's similar to, I guess, kind of like Cyberpunk 2077, but not as at the level of AAA. Less bugs as well, so a lot less bugs. And it's also a game that is being worked on by a small team of myself and a handful of other writers, musicians, artists, programmers, level designers, etc. And it's a game that is hopefully coming out soon. I don't have a release date. I'm so sorry, but it's really up to the production team. I know I said February or March, but there's like problems with part of it is like Unity did updates that caused some problems. We're trying to make sure that it's ready to go and doesn't have too many, it doesn't have bugs, but then sometimes platforms themselves can cause bugs. Part of why I like using AGS, because the AGS, once you get the platform, there's no updates. If you're using a version 3.1 or 3.4.6, it's gonna work, and then there's no update that can break stuff in the game in Adventure Game Studio. That's what I make Neofeud with, Adventure Game Studio. But anyways, this game is coming out soon, sometime soon. And I am the content director, the lead writer. It is a game where you play a illegal immigrant escaping from a U.S. concentration camp at the border, trying to run away from ICE and the roboticized ICE, robotic police and military that are chasing you down while you're living in a homeless tent city. So if that sounds like, again, I don't make games that pretend to not be political. I only make political cyberpunk games from a leftist, anti-racist, anti-imperialist perspective. And if you ever see Silver Spoon games that come out that are just like Grand Theft Auto reskinned with 80s retro future, or just like action games with some neon and some pink mohawks and a robot arm, then you know that I've either been co-opted or I've been replaced with a capitalist neoliberal robot. But yeah, that's Terminus Cyberstar. Finally, you can join the Terminus Cyberstar Discord. And you can also check out their Discord. And I would like to thank all these people right here. Dave, James Wheaton, Mingzilla, Mr. Brewer, Belinda Tater, Kiara, Capybara, Industrial Robot, Johnny C, Alana Montero, Sean Conlon, Danny Carroll, Eric Wright, GR Morgan, Songcroft, The River Del Hill, Wright 455, Matthew Stone, Alexander Roy, House, Alfonso Dilazar, Combo Breaker, Lark Miro, Skylar Smith, Tim Kabujas, Raph Tiny Earl, Michael McAllister, Extremely Online Left, Ted, Charlington Beastcoat, the name, Adam M. Smith, no relation to Adam Smith apparently, Matthew Cabrera, and Jay Owens for your continued support. It is massively appreciated. Again, let me look at I'm sorry, I don't look at chat a lot, but it's kind of how I roll. But I'll briefly look at the chat. Did you need to launder billions of dollars to make Terminus Cyberstar? No, that's a EA CD Projekt. Neofeud was made for like $10, okay, with zero budget basically. Neofeud was made with like in the back of a Mazda Tribute, eating spoonfuls of peanut butter for dinner at a campsite. We were literally camping out towards the end of it, living in a tiny studio with I still have the laptop that Neofeud was made on. It's like 10 years old. The letter 1, 2, 3, it's like Sesame Street. This game was brought to you by the letter Q, the letter T, and the number I. There's no education system. That's why I'm accidentally saying the numbers and letters wrong. Those are the only letters that still work. Neofeud is brought to you with N and F. The only two letters that still work on my 10-year-old Dell Latitude, Windows fucking XP or Windows 2000 laptop. It's ancient laptop. I still have it. I don't have any money. We don't have barely any money. I mean, we don't have zero money, but when I made Neofeud, we literally had $0 and we're not rich. We literally make poverty wages here at Silver Spoon Games technically, but because we live in the decolonized parts of Hawaii, we're not doing abysmally. If we were still on Oahu, where my family is, we would be homeless right now, even if I was working full time. So, anyways, but yeah, we time to end. So we'll see you next time at 9 Pacific time. Let me turn the stream off.